associate was coming to work and back from the courthouse around, I guess it was around noon time.
We're ready?
The cops stopped traffic to escort a peacock and a peahen across the street.
Welcome, everyone, to a special town commission meeting for today in our search for a new law firm for the town of Ocean Ridge. Tracy, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Ascroft?
Present.
Commissioner Bonfiglio?
Here.
Commissioner Lucibella?
Present.
Mayor Pugh?
Here.
And
Let the record show that Commissioner Allison is running a little bit late.
Okay. We are let's discuss the procedure in which we're going to do this. We're going to start the first interview at 9:30. We'll go ahead and listen to the presentation. And then after that, if anybody has any questions, we'll go in order and ask questions. I'm going to probably defer most of my questions to our resident attorney.
Mayor, might I make a suggestion?
Sure.
You're going to have about 20 to 25 minutes for questions. I would suggest that you allow each commissioner to ask one question so that you make sure all five get to ask a question, and then open it up to follow-up and other questions. I mean, a commissioner can pass if they don't have any particular questions.
Okay. Well, that's what I meant by open up to questions. If anybody has any questions, they can
Can
ask
we
them.
defer our questions to?
Well, just,
The funnel, you mean?
you want, I mean, I've got a number of questions or issues that I'd like each team to present to us. You want me to just kind of outline what I'm looking for and they can include it in their presentation? And if they don't, we can follow up with.
That makes some sense.
That makes a lot of
Okay.
sense.
Guys, here's kind of the notes that I
Well,
took.
you're only talking to one firm.
Yeah, I know, but we can do it every time.
Oh, this is the
somebody-
first firm that's coming
Yeah,
up anyway,
every time
so,
a
yeah.
firm comes up. The things that interest me are the number of attorneys in the firm, the hourly rates for the attorneys, hourly rates for paralegals, how many years of experience the attorneys have in the firm related to municipal issues, whether you have a presence in Tallahassee. One of the things that we have is, and you know, what kind of presence you have in Tallahassee, whether you have any experience with respect to labor issues, because we do have a union now, our police are represented by a union, and contract negotiations with the unions, that kind of experience. Your litigation experience, because on occasion we do have litigation issues that come up. What are your hourly rates for the extra litigation, and your pass-throughs to the client. You know what I mean by pass-throughs? Your costs, what you pass through, what you don't pass through. Do you charge for travel? The litigation experience you have in municipal litigation. Who you plan to send to the meetings, and their specific experience. And you know, that's kind of the issues that I'm planned to follow up with questions, and those are the things that interest me.
Brilliant.
Well, that says it all.
Question
Can you
on
get that all
process.
in one question?
Yeah. Did you guys bring, I guess I'm glad you asked about 4 people.
What is the expected outcome of today's meeting? Hi, Lynn.
Hey, Lynn.
What are we expecting as an outcome of today's meeting? Are we simply interviewing? Are we picking finalists? Are we going into session after this? Is this just an interview process?
I think the expectation is you'll make a selection today.
That's what my expectation is. The selection would be today.
We can or can't.
We,
Yeah, I mean, that's the expectation. Obviously, it's
just
still
for
up
the
to the
record,
commission.
we set the meeting up as a special meeting, so you would have that option either way, you know, to
Okay,
take,
so it's an
to
option.
take action.
It is.
All right.
Good
Morning.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Racing from another meeting.
Well, without further ado, we might as well go ahead. You want to start?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why not.
I don't see any reason why not.
You don't
Everybody's
get
here.
an extra 5 minutes.
Ready for me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Very well.
Okay, good morning. Mayor, commissioners, town staff, members of the public in the audience. My name is Anthony Soroka. I'm from the Weiss Soroka Law Firm, and I'm joined by my distinguished colleagues today, Brett Schneider, Susan Trebarthen, and Matt Raimundo. And we are Team Ocean Ridge. And first, I'd like to express my appreciation for you shortlisting me for this interview today. It is truly a pleasure to be here. You have a great town. It's a beautiful town. And before I start my presentation, I want to tell you, I want to clear the air and let you know, despite my efforts last night, I did not win the $1.5 billion Powerball. So it shouldn't be a concern of yours that I'll turn into an overnight billionaire and have better things to do. I hope you did better than I did. I got one number. For my presentation, I just want to give you a little bit of background on myself, my qualifications, as I would be the lead role for this engagement. I want to tell you why we believe that myself, my team, and our firm is best situated to provide you with high-level legal expertise in a cost-effective manner. I want to explain a little bit the experts that I have with me here today and my firm, go into my cost proposal, and then open it up for any questions that you have for me. I'll try to address the questions presented by Commissioner Bonfiglio the best I can in my initial presentation. To the extent I miss anything, please ask me afterwards. First, I was born and raised in South Florida in a suburb of Broward County. Some would say I have local government in my genes. I grew up exposed to local government in an early age. My father has been a city manager in the state of Florida for the past 35 years. At the age of 24, I graduated from the University of Miami Law School, and for the past nearly decade, I've been working at the law firm of Weiss Soroka, which is the largest law firm in the state, providing specific local government services to cities and towns. And what I mean by that is we represent more local governments in a city attorney capacity than any other firm in the state. And because of that, I've been able to hone my skills and my craft in local government law. And what I mean by that is I've represented over 20 municipalities in various representations. I don't want to mislead you, not as city attorney, not as deputy city attorney. I primarily for 4 cities in a assistant city attorney capacity or deputy city attorney capacity. I've sat on the dais with commission as an alternate or designee of my colleagues who do sit as city attorney. I became the youngest partner in my firm's 25-year history not too long ago. I've served as a special master. I've served as a municipal prosecutor. I've handled hundreds of contracts and ordinances. I've done a lot of work over the past nearly decade. What I think is important and significant for you all and the citizens, residents, taxpayers of the town of Ocean Ridge is not just that we have this broad municipal experience, but it's specific to coastal city expertise. And what I mean by that, 2 of the 4 cities that I primarily represent, and that being the town of Lauderdale by the Sea and the city of Marco Island on the West Coast, have similar issues to the issues that you all are dealing with. And what that means to you is, for example, last month I negotiated a beach renourishment agreement that included the county, the state, federal officials. I routinely deal with beach access issues. 2 months ago, I was dealing with dock permitting issues in the city of Marco Island. I know you all have septic tank here. As part of my duties as municipal prosecutor in Marco Island, I enforced their septic tank replacement program over there. Now I want to focus on the firm's strengths. You have 4 great firms here before you today. The 3 other firms, I know of them, or I've worked with some of them, and I know the others. They have good reputations, and they're good at what they do. But I think there's 4 key factors that distinguishes our firm and separates us from the pack. The first one being, we have the ability to give a long-lasting relationship with this town. It's my understanding you've only had 3 attorneys since 1972. I don't want to change that. I want to be your 4th attorney, and I have the ability to do it for the next 20 to 30 years. This is personal for me. I moved up to Palm Beach County. I live in Northeast Delray. I moved there, and we bought a house 3.5 years ago. I love this area. I live less than 10 minutes from the town of Ocean Ridge. Every weekend, at some point or another, I drive through your wonderful town. so it means a lot to me. I'm going to be practicing in Palm Beach County for a long time. I'm going to be here 20 years from now, 30 years from now. I have the capacity, and our firm too has the capacity to provide you with that long-lasting relationship. Second, we have no conflicts. And what I mean by that is not only do we not have any adverse interests within the town, but we do not represent any neighboring municipalities as city attorney. In addition to no legal conflicts, I do not have any scheduling conflicts. I've looked at when your meetings are. You are going to be my highest priority, without a doubt. I do not serve as city attorney for 3 or 4 other cities. This would be my primary engagement, and you have my word that I will give you the time that's needed and the integrity that you deserve and the citizens of this town deserve. Third, I touched on it before, it's that specialized coastal experience and expertise that we have at the forum that's important to you. And by way of example, I'll tell you what that means. We deal with these beach access issues, but for example, in Bell Harbor where we represent, I mean, we become experts in sand when they did their beach renourishment. And we know things about the quality of sand. So it's that type of detail and that level of experience and exposure that I think will be critical for this town. And finally, and definitely not least important, it's our deep bench. We have 60 attorneys at the firm. The firm was created over 25 years ago with the concept that it would be the one-stop shop for municipalities, and that cities and towns such as yourself should have the same level of high level of representation as major corporations with huge budgets do. And to illustrate the deep bench, I wanted to see, I'm going to be your primary contact, and everything will run through me, but I wanted you to see the faces of the primary attorneys that would be assisting with me with this engagement. And I want to talk about them for a minute, if that's okay with you. To my left is Brett Schneider. Brett Schneider is a labor expert. He's board certified by the Florida Bar in labor. He routinely handles collective bargaining agreements. This is what he does day in and day out. I know next year you're probably going to be negotiating the terms of the renewal of your next collective bargaining agreement. He's going to be great to have on this team moving forward in that regard. Sitting behind him is my esteemed colleague Susan Trevarthen. She's one of the most preeminent land use and zoning experts in the state. And by the way, you have a great town attorney. I've talked to many people. One of my mentors at my firm, I just want to mention this, I worked with him many years ago, and I know he has a great level of expertise. And we want to provide you with seamless transition and give you that same level. Susan's board certified, expert of her craft. She's a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners in the state, and she'll be very helpful in land use and zoning issues. And behind me on my right is Matt Raimundo. Matt has worked in Palm Beach County for governments and as a litigator for over 10 years. And he served in an assistant city attorney capacity under one of your former town attorneys, Skip Randolph. And so he's worked in the town of Palm Beach and Jupiter Island and Jupiter. Again, cities very similar to yours. Cost proposal. We submitted a cost proposal consistent with your fiscal year budget. In other words, in your budget, after Mr. Spilius retires, you have designated a certain sum for the 7 months remaining in the fiscal year. And we have submitted a proposal consistent with that, which is a $7,000 monthly retainer to handle routine matters. And what that means is attendance and preparation for and attendance at your city commission meetings. We budgeted it for about 3 meetings a month. It looks like on average you have 3 meetings. And what I mean by that is you may have 2 town commission meetings one month and 1 Board of Adjustment meeting or 1 code enforcement meeting, but it looks like on average you have about 3 meetings a month. So the budget is for about 36 meetings cumulative. It makes no difference to us how that spreads it out. If it's 1 or 2 meetings more, 1 or 2 meetings less, we'll work with you on that. And for the non-routine matters, for the specialized services, for the labor negotiations and litigation, we propose a flat hourly rate of $205 per hour, which is what you've budgeted for. We do not charge for paralegals. We do not charge for administrative work. You will not see on your bill a charge for somebody to make a label on a mailing. And when I say $7,000 monthly retainer, that includes travel to and from meetings. And I'll just remind you, I live less than 10 minutes away, so it's very close for me and very convenient. Before I finish, I just want to make sure I've touched on all of Commissioner Bonfiglio's issues. So I said there's 60 attorneys in the firm. I said the hourly rates, there's no distinction. It's $205 an hour for that, for the work that's outside of the traditional services that we provide. As far as the Tallahassee presence, we do not have an office in Tallahassee. We routinely work with lobbyists, consultants up there to achieve the goals of our clients, though. And so we have a lot of relationships that we utilize and leverage to benefit our clients. But we are not primarily lobbyists. We are skilled, specialized municipal attorneys. I think I touched on the labor issues, the litigation experience. I do not go to court every day. I have been to court. My last trial was 2 years ago. It was removing a sexual offender from a city who claimed he wasn't living in a particular place, and I was successful in that. But we have a whole team of litigators that focus on governmental law. I have been involved in various legal matters in this county and in other counties, coming up with strategy for cases and helping litigators implement that strategy. I'm not scared of court. I love to go to court. It's just, it's tough to maintain a full-time litigation practice and full-time government practice. It doesn't really work. So I have others to assist me. I have Matt. We have a whole team of litigators. And I just want to follow up with that. You know, you get me, you get the team, but you also get access to not only our 60 attorneys, but 45 of those attorneys who have specialized experience. And when I say that, and Commissioner Bonfiglio and Mr. Spelius may recognize, I'm not talking about just a specialty within a particular area. In other words, I do construction law. Not only do we have those specialties, but they're with a tilt and a focus on local government issues, because that's what we do. That's what we do on a daily basis. So I want to close, and in closing, I just want to let you know that it would be a distinct honor to serve this town and the residents of this town. It's a beautiful town. It's a great place. And I'd love to answer any questions you may have. If you don't mind, I just want to get a drink of water first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Rocca.
Thank you.
Okay, who would like to start? Gail?
Did he answer all your questions, Jim?
Well,
Did I get them all?
let me start. The reason I asked the presence in Tallahassee is because I think it's important to know what the legislature is up to with respect to municipalities in general, and how what they do may impact our town in particular. So that's really the issue when I ask about a presence in Tallahassee. So what do you folks plan to do, or what do you have in place to keep abreast of the legislation that is being proposed in Tallahassee that would affect municipalities in the state?
Right. That's a great question. Yeah, it's legislative bill tracking. What's going on? What are the bills that you need to know about that are going to affect the town that we either need to be for or against, or are there bills, hey, that this doesn't really affect us and we don't need to spend our time? The answer to your question is yes, we do bill tracking. Many of the members of our firm are on various committees that look at these issues. I know I've served in the Broward County League of Cities for a couple of years on a committee that's all we do. We look at the legislative bills that are before the state each year, right around January, February, probably closer to March when things really get heated up there, and we see how they impact our various municipalities. One of the very first things I would do, if I had the pleasure of working with this town, is I would sit down with the commissioners and the town staff and find out what your priorities are, and create a list, and so it's on my radar, and so I know exactly what to look for and exactly what to bring you with respect to your priorities.
Okay. Yes.
Sure.
Sorry, I couldn't get his on. I also just wanted to mention for you, Susan Trevarthen for the record, we're active in the League of Cities for Palm Beach, Dade, and Broward. We're in the committees and the leadership of those. We represented the Florida League of Cities. I was the Florida Municipal Attorneys Association designee on the Medical Marijuana Task Force a couple of years ago. I did the work on the vacation rentals legislation. So we have a long and deep history of being current with the issues of legislative concern to municipalities, in addition to what Anthony just mentioned. Just wanted to make you aware of that.
Thank you, Susan. Absolutely.
Okay, during your presentation, I think I heard you said there's a flat rate of $205 per hour for, would that be for all the attorneys in your firm if we have to?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you pass through paralegal hourly rates?
We do not charge any rates for paralegals. You will not pay for that. You will
Office
not
staff?
see it on your bill.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to costs and expenses, because I don't believe I addressed that before,
Right.
we can generally address that in two manners, and it's really up to however the town wants. For things like postage,
Well,
things
yeah,
like.
that's the kind of things that I'm, postage, Xerox,
Sure.
those kinds of things that are generally overhead and that, which I eat in my office and don't pass through the client. Is that the kind of things that you eat in your hourly rate, or is it a pass-through?
Well, I will tell you that, I mean, we craft a proposal that works for the town and our firm. And so we're willing to talk about alternative arrangements. I think the way it's presented, generally, I think more commonly, we either charge like a flat rate. Some towns have found they don't want to see every little postage expense. And so we'll charge like a 2 or 2.5% like administrative charge per month. Or we have cities or towns where we just charge whatever the expense is and we put it on there. Alternatively, if that's a big issue for you, we can work out an alternative.
Okay.
That is certainly something we would look into and we'd be happy to consider.
Thank you.
Sure.
I think I heard you say, too, in your presentation that you were going to be the attorney that planned to sit up here where our town attorney presently sits now during meetings.
That's correct.
And is that also at the various board meetings that we may have? You're the one who plans to be there?
That's correct.
Okay. Who would be your substitute in case you couldn't appear?
My substitute is Brett Schneider.
Okay.
And I should mention both Brett and Matt are also Palm Beach County residents
Okay, and
that do not live too far from here.
not that we're an extremely litigious city, but,
Can't say that.
but, I mean, I think it's Judge Barkdale that says, a calendar call, when we schedule a case for trial, we'll find out who the litigators are and who the trial attorneys are. So what kind of trial experience do you guys, as opposed to how many litigation files do you handle? Do you know?
What type of trial experience?
Yeah, how many trials have you handled? How many deal with
Sure.
municipalities, jury trials, non-jury trials, things like that?
Absolutely. Quite a few. I don't have a number for you because it is extensive. We have done a number of jury trials, and I know in the submission, I believe, in there and also on our website, I mean, we have a ton of recorded cases on there, and you can see based on the year how many there are. I don't have a specific number for you, but I assure you there are a lot. As far as my personal experience, I started off, in addition to working with the firm one year when I was in law school, I also did a certified legal internship at the state attorney's office and did have the ability as a third year to try a number of cases in that regard. And I mentioned to you, I've been to a number of hearings myself. I do the municipal work, municipal prosecutor work, and I've handled the trials like the one I've mentioned. But my colleagues are esteemed. Just to give you an example, a couple of years ago, a case we worked on not too far from here in the city I live in Delray Beach against Waste Management. The city was looking to get out of their contract that they believed was not bid properly, and I prepared the analysis in that regard as to whether that was possible, and I worked with our litigators on strategy, and we got them out of a no-bid $65 million contract, and as a result, Delray taxpayers, including myself, are saving millions of dollars on solid waste fees now that it's been competitively procured. That was in the last year and a half. That was before Judge Manu Sasser in Palm Beach County. That's one example. You can go to the website and see a number of others.
Okay. How many jury trials have you handled?
How many jury trials have I handled? Not that many. One.
All right.
And it was as a CLI, many years ago.
How about non-jury trials?
Non-jury trials would be 2.
Okay.
Non-jury trials myself. But again, our litigation staff, and I'll have Matt come up here. He's one of our litigators in Palm Beach County.
Okay.
I think he could better elaborate on that.
I've been working in, Matt Remenda, for the record. I was, as Anthony mentioned, working with Skip Randolph with the town of Palm Beach and Jupiter Island over at Jones Foster in West Palm Beach for a number of years, for almost 13 years. I was primarily a commercial litigator over there, so I've handled numerous jury trials. One that comes to mind is from 5 years ago. I had a 5-week jury trial in front of Judge Winikoff, who unfortunately is no longer with us, and we had a very successful verdict in that case of over $7 million. So I've handled several jury trials. The firm as a whole has certainly handled several jury trials. I don't know if Mr. Spilius recalls, we had a case together at one point. So not just myself, but the entire firm as a whole, we have a very large litigation department, and I'm very comfortable with trials, and Judge Barkdale in particular, one of my favorite judges.
Isn't that what he says? I'm pretty sure that's what he says. We're going to find out who the litigators are.
He says a lot of things. What I often tell clients is, I'm not sure how Judge Barkdale is going to rule on this motion, but I'm sure we're going to know how he feels about the case.
It will be a colorful hearing.
Yes, absolutely.
One other question. Not that we now have a whole lot of litigation. We have even fewer appeals, but do you folks handle appeals too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we have one of the best appellate lawyers around, Ned Geddes. He's excellent.
Do you know how many authored opinions he's on brief for?
I don't have that specific number for you, but I'd be happy to provide that information to you, Mr. Bonfiglio.
Thank you.
It's quite a few. I think you'll find that he's more than qualified, and our team is more than qualified.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Any other questions?
Anybody else?
I have two.
Okay.
I have two questions for you. I'm a little bit concerned about process because I hear us say, well, we have the option here of actually making a selection, and yet I hear you saying, well, when it comes to the cost, we can negotiate those. You see, there's kind of a conflict there in my mind of how we can proceed efficiently. So understanding that we're not looking to nickel and dime anybody. What I'd rather hear from you than we can talk about that is, what did your proposal contemplate in terms of costs? $7,000 a month, I get that.
Right.
No pass-throughs on administrative staff or paralegals, I get that. What does it contemplate in terms of the actual costs?
Right. It contemplates pretty much costs generally, I think we do built to the client, but this town, this is not going to be, I don't anticipate that this would be a large expense. And I don't know if,
What's the mechanics of it? And I understand that, but
Sure.
just clarify, what were the mechanics of what you had in your mind when you made the proposal? Was it a flat fee, a percentage? Was it a pass-through of costs? Give us an idea of it. We understand it's negotiable.
Right. So the proposal that you had, it was $205 an hour for non-litigation, for non-routine work, and $7,000 a month retainer. Obviously, we haven't been in the town serving you, so we don't know exactly what your expenses and costs are going to look like to try to get a number on that. And, I don't know that I really saw that in the budget. If it was there, I missed it. Mr. Spilius is going to elaborate about, his experience. And if he tells me what I think it is, I think it's going to be a non-issue, and we may be able to just work it into what we've given you.
When I was with Louis Longman, we did not charge for copies. We did not charge for postage. The only costs that we passed through were long-distance telephone charges and couriers, things like that, and obviously filing fees and that type of thing.
Right. I would give you that same.
Insignificant?
Let me explain the reason I was concerned about it. It's because you used to be able to make a
I've seen it all.
significant extra
Yes,
profit
I've seen it
by
all.
passing through, 50 cents a copy for
Copy fees,
copy.
yes.
You charge an extra fee for someone to stand at the postage meter and send out mail, things like that. That's,
The only time we charge for
Yeah.
copies is if we had to send it out.
it's not going to be, I don't think, in the day of age of e-filing
I'm not trying
and
to-
e-service, it's a lot less significant now.
And I'm not trying to knock you back, and I'm not trying to pin you down exactly. I'm trying to get a sense, and I still don't.
Commissioner, I don't feel that you're trying to do that. So it's a very fair question. You're trying to find out what the taxpayers are going to be on the hook for in this engagement, and I appreciate that. And, and hearing this as a concern and recognizing, the scope of services we're going to provide to the city and the importance of this engagement, I have no problem including the costs that Mr. Spilius just mentioned that you weren't charged for before in the amount. So what you'll be paying for is the filing fees or the couriers. We'll eat the postage, we'll eat the phone calls.
Unless.
We're not concerned with that.
Okay.
This isn't, our primary objective here is not to make money. I mean, there are others, we have a number, look, don't get me wrong, I mean, employees have to be paid, and we're in business to make money. But with this particular engagement, I mean, this is not a $500,000 legal budget, city $750,000. This is a very significant engagement to both myself and this firm. So I'm happy to eat those charges and include those charges in the rates that were proposed to you. So all you'll be paying for is, like if a lawsuit is necessary and we file that, the 400 and change filing fee, yeah, that you would pay. But, if you want to call me, I need to call somebody long distance, you're not going to pay for that. You will not see postage. Couriers, yes. Postage, no. If there's any other specific,
Hard costs, you're saying?
yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Second question, we have an opening for a third baseman on our staff softball team. Are you available for it?
Not only am I available, I actually do have quite a bit of experience in both baseball and softball, and I have played for our firm softball team in a tournament where we took home the trophy a couple years
we
ago.
got a softball
We
team?
actually don't
Who
have.
plays second base?
Mr. Spelius has been waiting to get on the team.
We actually don't have a softball team.
Oh, okay.
Counselor, but I just wanted to see if you had a sense of humor in your passage.
Okay.
Thank you.
We actually do have a trophy like this high in our office from that tournament, though. I'll be happy to share that with you. Sure.
All right, well, any other questions? Thank you so much, Mrs. Soroka. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the rest of
No,
you.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks all.
I know you said you were going to make a decision, if you don't mind me asking. Do you want me to stick around, or I don't want to?
No, I think we'll
Okay.
just make phone calls.
You'll let me know. Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I had a lot of questions, but he answered them all. It's pretty thorough. Does the public tell
The level of intensity was rather strong. That's why my last question, I just wanted to see if you could smile.
Yeah. Well, I hadn't realized we had approved them because I realized they're in Coral Gables and Fort Lauderdale, but then I found out that they do a lot in Palm Beach. They don't have any competition in other cities, which is nice. They don't have that, and the fact that they live nearby is nice too.
The litigation a few years ago that was led by Boca Raton and Delray, having to do with, I'm trying to remember what it was, fire service or something. One of their attorneys handled it for the cities, Jamie Cole, the litigation
Counselor,
attorneys.
Why didn't Louis Longman apply?
The reason it was given to me was that because one of our lobbyist attorneys represents the state's vacation rental association, and this year those issues are coming up again, and they take the position that the cities should not be able to regulate them the way we do. They felt that that conflict was too significant
Do you agree?
to deal with. Well, we worked through it last time. I mean, it was kind of a difficult situation for me because I did not know that that we represented that association, and when we found out about the bill that was intended to prevent us from doing what we do, we had some significant internal discussions. It did lead to the provision that grandfathered ordinances like ours, but also handcuffed us not to be able to change them. I know that there's going to be an effort on the part of municipalities to, again, get more authority to deal with it, but there's going to be pushback from the association to remove them. It would not have been a legal conflict to the extent that the town waived the conflict, and they would have been asking for a specific waiver, but they felt, and this is what was conveyed to me. I don't know if there were other reasons, but that was the explanation that was given to me. They felt it was too significant a request to make.
Maybe they just thought they couldn't fill your shoes. Which are big shoes to fill.
Might have been a financial issue, too.
Yeah, could we do a bathroom run?
coffee run.
Coffee run?
No, it's 10 o'clock, so
Not allowed.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Taking a brief recess?
Well, yeah.
This is an administrative issue. Ken Khalil, 86 Island Drive South.
As long as it's administrative, otherwise I'd suggest you leave public comment till after all the presentations.
Well, this is an open meeting. It's a different.
I said I suggest. It's the chairman's choice.
Watch it. Anyway, you're on a short, no, you're a short-termer.
Or at least not letting any of the attorneys talk about it.
I think it would have been helpful, and in the future, since we are in the tech age, is that when you put out your agenda, that you attach the backup material that you have, that the public can see it as well. Because I think it would be helpful, I mean, that's what was on the,
That's all we have.
that's all you have?
Well, we received proposals, yes. And
Yeah,
I thought
I
we'd
do.
do.
There's
This
also a
was settled-
memorandum that sets the times.
Correct, but this was settled with the town clerk over a year ago, that we agreed that we were going to provide all of that electronically on the website for people to download for all meetings. So if it's not there, I think it should have.
Yeah,
It
that's all.
should have been.
Yeah,
That's all.
yeah, I think
This
we
was
did that.
agreed, Ken,
It was on all
over,
issues.
well over a year ago.
So you may want to make that sure that when they do the newsletter, that that's all inside the newsletter.
And that's so noted for the future.
Yeah, I think that
Absolutely.
we've been arguing for the past couple of years that the more information people have, the better, better.
Absolutely.
No, that's right. The mayor just wants to move things along.
Great question. I mean, it was like, I must pile mine up and throw them in the garbage.
Obviously Glenn Torsevia. We're excited to be here. It's funny, we were just waiting in the library, we were talking about after all these years, we're all still excited about local government law, because every day there's something different, you know. Brian's talking about sober homes, Carolyn zoning issues, I had sunshine issue this morning. So there's always something different in what you're doing, and that's what's exciting.
Before Glenn starts,
Before
do you,
I was gonna say,
yeah,
yeah,
do you want-
before-
Commissioner Bonfiglio, you want to?
Yeah, I had made some notes on what I think the questions that we're looking for, and maybe you can answer them in your presentation, which would be, you know, the hourly rates that you would charge for any special issues besides the monthly retainer, your pass-through costs, what you intend to pass through as costs to the town, Xerox postage, things like that. How many years of experience the attorneys that's going to be actually sitting up here with us has, years of experience of the attorneys in the firm. Whether there's a presence in Tallahassee, probably awkwardly framed, what I'm looking for is how you keep track of bills that affect municipalities that the legislature is contemplating and chances of passing, things like that. Whether you have labor contract negotiators, we have a union, a police union now, so that contract comes up in what, in another year, I believe?
Yeah, another 2017.
Yeah, the litigation experience in municipal issues, who you intend to send to the meeting, and, you know, those kinds of the issues that we are looking at. So if you could include those, the discussion of those issues in your presentation, that'll probably cut down on a lot of questions and answers.
Okay. Well, I'll start and turn it over to Brian and Carolyn for a little bit, and then we're all available for questions at any time. The things you laid out are actually all of our points that we would talk to you about. For example, Tallahassee, I just told Jamie it's the first time I haven't seen him in Palm Beach County Day in years. I just got back. I flew in last night. So, you know, we're familiar with Tallahassee. In years past, I actually, back in the day when Ken was county commissioner, I did some lobbying for the county. I don't do lobbying anymore, but you have to be aware of what's happening in Tallahassee. It affects us all. I mentioned sober homes. I was in a meeting yesterday. It was the Speaker of the House and Representative Pat Rooney, and Pat's proposing legislation that would provide some false and deceptive advertising kind of sanctions or rules and regulations for sober home providers. Senators Clemens and Hager have legislation that they passed last year that was really the drop in the bucket, but they continue. And we all know there's a lot of restrictions on what can be done. I keep mentioning Brian because Brian's a sober home expert. He was at Delray Beach for 20 years. He was the assistant city attorney for 15 years, the city attorney 4.5 years, so there's nobody that knows more, probably as much as Terrell. Terrell and Brian, Terrell Pyburn was also in Delray, and the two of those were the two go-to people on sober homes. I used to go to presentations that they made about sober homes 5-6 years ago when it was an emerging issue. So yeah, you have to have a presence in Tallahassee. You have to at least know what's going on up there. Do we need to actually go there physically? Not really, other than if there's a specific issue. I mean, I was there specifically, frankly, for the city of Belle Glade because they have a funding request in, and they've gotten over $1 million for each of the last 3 years for roads and sewers, and we continue to do that.
What do you do to keep track of the bills that are going through?
Generally,
the
you know,
system?
there's so many monitoring services. The League of Cities provides monitoring services. On the labor and employment side, for example, you asked about labor and employment. We have 2 lawyers, Laura Donlin and John O'Connell. All they do is labor and employment law. Probably 50 or 60% of it for local governments, the rest for private sector, everything from restaurants to doctors. And you just monitor what's happening. You're in touch with the delegation. You're in touch with your key members. You know, whoever your state rep may be on an issue, you stay in touch with their office. We all know the aides are the key. You're not going to get to talk to the state rep or the state senator very often during session, but you develop a good relationship with their staff so that you pick up the phone. And let's face it, we all know this is all about relationships. You know, we're all good lawyers. Everybody you're going to talk to is a good lawyer. Everybody's qualified to do the job. But it's being able to pick up the phone, whether it's the delegation, I mean, people in Tallahassee, or the county. You know, I started as a assistant county attorney in '84, still maintain a good relationship with the county. I can't tell you how many issues got resolved with the county that you never knew about, nobody knows about, and they never should know about. You know, so part of our philosophy is preventative law. If we can prevent a lawsuit, prevent an issue, we're doing you a much better service. Litigation is usually only good for 2 people, me and the other lawyer. And that's good. Jimmy likes that. Ken likes that. We all like that. But you asked about litigation experience. You know, I've had hundreds of cases. You know, I'm not sure how many Brian and Carolyn have had a lot of them, certainly. But I did insurance defense work. I represented the school board for over a decade on all their personnel matters, 15,000 employees, you can imagine. Rodney King happened. I was doing unlawful use of force cases for Riviera Beach. Again, you can imagine how many there were. So I love the courtroom. There's no place else almost I'd rather be than in trial, but it's the worst place for clients. So I love doing it. Ken and I have had the pleasure of actually being on the other side of cases. And, you know, you still maintain that relationship as professional colleagues, and you respect each other. I certainly respected him. I hope he respects me a little bit, and our abilities in the courtroom. But you want to try and avoid that if you can, because, again, litigation is so expensive. Judge Middlebrooks, a federal court judge, and I've done a lot of federal court work, wrote an article recently where for every 100 pieces of paper that a lawyer looks at in a case, only 1 goes into evidence. And the proliferation of paper, you know, the paperless society, forget about it. Now there's emails, there's text messages, there's regular letters and documents. And as your lawyer, you want to see every piece of paper because that 1 piece of paper might be the blockbuster. So you're reading 100 pieces of paper to find that one. And so the cost of litigation has gotten astronomical and is really difficult for clients to really pursue cases all the way to the end, other than cases that are really important, and you have to just deal with them that way. You asked about our fees. We proposed $210 an hour. We also put in an annual 3% increase commencing October 2017, because I think one of the toughest things for me to do is ask for money, frankly. I'm never good about coming in and saying, and I've learned it's also tough for commissioners. 3% seems to be a fair number. It's probably, if you look historically, what's been the average increase to employees over the years, 2%, 3%, 5%. That's been the range if you go back 20 years. So that kind of eliminates that as an issue to talk about. We're open to any other arrangement that you want. We could talk about it. We have clients where they talk about it every year in budget cycle. You know, will there be an increase? Won't there be? How much will it be? We've developed this over the last few years, and the clients that we have it with all seem to be happy with it. We have that with Lake Worth, for example, with Palm Springs, and you know, it's just it's kind of a fair number. Actually, not with Palm Springs, we have it with Lake Worth. You asked about who would be the attorney? And we were joking about that in the library. I said, well, we could arm wrestle over it. Brian would beat me, Carolyn would beat both of us. So it would, sitting in there, it would be whoever you wanted. We all want to do it. I mean, I'd love to do it. Brian would love to do it. Carolyn would love to do it. So whoever you're most comfortable with, because I started out talking about relationships. It's all about relationships. This council is about relationships. Mayor, you've been on for a long time. You know, Lynn, I've seen you for a long time. Gail, you know, I know you two are a little newer at it, but you've still been involved for a few years, and you were on the boards for years before that. I've been your magistrate for years. I've seen you all. I know this is a community, and it's about building those relationships. And so whoever you want sitting in the chair, that's who you'll have, because we all want to do it. And you're getting a team. It doesn't matter. What are we talking about out there? We're talking about law, boring stuff, you know. But we're talking about, you know, what are we doing about this case? Christy Godot, who's another partner in the firm, 8 o'clock this morning, we're talking about the Sunshine Law public records issue. We like doing it. We really do like it, and we really do like this town. You know, I've been here for so many years. I used to live in Lantana and Boynton. I used to go to the Boynton Beach, you know, as a teenager. You know, Delray, Brian's lived in Delray for 20-some-odd years. Carolyn and Lake Worth for 20-some-odd years, approximately. So we know the community. We like the community. We want to be involved in the community. I don't want to give up being your special magistrate, but I would much rather do that position. I think we could provide a lot more service than just once a month come for an hour or two. Let me be quiet and turn it over to well, first Brian for a couple minutes, and then Brian, and then Carolyn, and then back to questions.
Thank you. Good morning. As Glenn had mentioned, I'd been in Delray for about 19 and a half years. I think I'd seen most of the things that you all will probably be facing, or if you haven't already faced. You know, I've got that experience, all municipal law. Since I left Delray and came to work for Glenn's firm, the same thing, municipal law work as well. As far as litigation experience, and I don't know if Ken remembers this, but I think it was back in '95, I think it was like the first writ of cert case that I did. I was a brand new attorney. I didn't have a whole lot to work with on the case, and the judges, the 3 panel of judges there, they were kind of asking a lot of rhetorical questions, and you know when they start doing that, then they don't really care to, you know, elaborate to kind of hear what you have to say, but Ken was nice enough to kind of say, look, you know, hey, he's here representing his city here, so don't make him go back there with all of these demands that you're having. So I do appreciate that. Since then, I've had lots of other writ of certiorari cases, excessive use of force cases, trip and fall accidents, you name it. We've kind of experienced a lot of different things. I think I've got lots of experience in that field, but the bigger thing that I enjoyed with Glenn's firm that I saw when I came there was the collaborative effort of all the attorneys. So it's not like you aren't just getting one attorney. You know, there's different attorneys there, and each one of us may specialize or have a little bit more experience in one field of law than the other, or one part of municipal law than the other, and we draw from that. And I think that kind of gives you the total package. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Carolyn Ansay. Thank you for having us. As Glenn pointed out, I am with the firm as a partner in the firm, and I was formerly at the South Florida Water Management District. I came to the firm about 18 months ago. I was general counsel there for about 3 years, but the bulk of my career has been in private practice. Before I went to the district, I was also in private practice in a firm similar to Glenn's, representing cities and counties. I'm board certified in city, county, and local government law as well. I've served as city attorney from cities in Volusia County and done work all the way down through Palm Beach County. My firm that I was with before had an office in Central Florida, so I had clients all over the state. I could tell you every rest stop between here and Jacksonville, and the ones you don't want to use and the ones you do want to use. So I've been city attorney of the city of Edgewater, did work in New Smyrna Beach as city attorney as well. And I've been a special magistrate in a number of places. But the real experience that I bring to our firm is in water and environmental and land use law. That's been the area that I've specialized in. Of course, that's why I ultimately ended up at the Water Management District as general counsel. I do work with local government utilities throughout South Florida. And I do a lot of work with natural resource organizations. I recently formed and I represent and serve as general counsel to the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program, an organization that works to improve the health of the Indian River Lagoon from Palm Beach County all the way north through Volusia County. It's comprised of 5 county governments as well as 2 water management districts in the State Department of Environmental Protection. I do work for local governments down in this area as well, and have done everything from assisting with utility type issues to sea level rise and also FEMA issues, FEMA related issues. The city of Lake Worth right now still has some old, believe it or not, issues related to FEMA claims from the storms of 04-05 and monies that have been deobligated and taken back that were given to the city at that time period. I recently spoke at the League of Cities on things local governments can do in advance of storms to ensure you're in the best position to not have that happen to you should a storm come, in the future. And so I do some of that kind of work. But again, one of the things that I've been focusing on most recently is sea level rise and flood risk, which certainly is an issue that affects many of our communities. It was an area that I focused on when I was at the Water Management District, obviously the largest resource agency in the state of Florida, operating the largest flood control system in the state of Florida, and very focused on what are the strategies on a go-forward basis to reduce flood risk, but also what are the liabilities, who's responsible, how do we pay for it, and all of those types of questions that are beginning to arise as people experience rising waters as a result of whether it's a king tide in October or whether it's from a storm. And so those are some issues that I've been focused on recently for folks as well. So that's kind of a little bit about me, and I'm happy as we go forward to answer any questions you all may have. And again, we appreciate your consideration, and thank you for having us. I think, Glenn, I've worked in firms and in big agencies, and I think Glenn's leadership in our law firm really does bring a team atmosphere. I mean, I spend half my day standing in other lawyers' offices just talking about issues, and that's a value that you can't place on a lot of interactions, because to be able to go down the hall and work with each other in that way to get to the best legal advice for our clients. And as he says, we're all kind of geeks at this, and we really love what we do, and hopefully that comes across to you all as we're here today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to follow up a couple of things that Carolyn said. First, she sells herself short. FEMA, she brought in the guy that was the former general counsel of FEMA and got the largest verdict ever against FEMA, $23 million for the Water Management District. So when they tried to deobligate that much money, so she definitely knows her way around the courtroom, knows her way around FEMA regulations, which I read them and I go stir crazy. You asked about fees, and we've talked about how we talk collaboratively. We don't charge you for that. I mean, that's one thing that, because I've been in this, we are in this chair. I mean, I serve as general counsel, city attorney for a number of cities. And I remember back in the early 90s, I was general counsel for the healthcare district, and we had a big firm, and I got a bill, and there were 5 lawyers, and it was $1,000 for their hour. And I was like, whoa, guys, come here. This isn't going to work. We'll pay for the head guy, maybe a second guy if there's an important issue. If you're in trial, I understand you're going to have 2 lawyers at trial. But generally, you're going to see a lot of bills from us that say no charge, because you'll know that we talked about it, because you need to know. You're the client. So if the 3 of us have a conversation, or Brian and I have a conversation, the bill's going to say 0.2 for Glenn, no charge, 0.2 for Brian, charge, because you're only going to get charged 90% of the time for one of us. It's only rarely that you're going to have 2 people billing on something, and that would be something like a trial where you really need to have 2 lawyers there. You asked also, Commissioner, about labor and employment. Well, I negotiated the county's first collective bargaining agreement with the Fire Rescue Union back in 1986. So I've been doing it ever since then. So I think I have a little bit of experience of doing that. Just finished the PBA with Palm Springs, about to start the PBA with Highland Beach. Actually, they're FOP. They have the Florida, the Police Benevolent, and the other one, the FOP group. We're currently, Laura in our firm is negotiating for St. Lucie County, the City of Port St. Lucie, both the PBA and the general employee contract. For Lake Worth, we've got 2 union contracts she's negotiating. So between Laura and I negotiated 50, 60, CBAs over the years, arbitrations, disciplinary issues, personnel policies, we write them. John O'Connell is the other labor and employment person in the firm. You asked about experience. Everybody's at least a 10-year lawyer. I love hiring young lawyers. I've learned that clients don't really want to pay for a rookie to learn. And so John is probably the least experienced, right? I think he's got 10 or 11 years experience. Jen Unicky in our office was with West Palm Beach for 9 years. She's been with us for the last 9 years, so she's got a lot of experience. Jen is the office person. You'll never see her, but she's the best researcher in the world. Christy, just as Brian and Carolyn, they're all board certified in local government law. And so there's 7 of us all together, and all of us really love what we're doing. Again, 5 of us focus on local governments. I'm the crossover. I do local government and labor and employment, and then anything else that I need to do as the generalist. But Laura and John really focus on the labor and employment issues.
Okay. On
Are you,
the,
one second. Are you finished with your presentation?
Whenever you want, yeah.
Okay, great. We'll go ahead and start the question and answer period.
okay. What do you plan to pass through as overhead costs to the town?
We
Things like
generally
postage, Xerox, phone calls,
Right, we
things
generally
like that?
charge 25 cents a page for copies and postage. We don't charge hourly rates for travel. We'll seek reimbursement for parking cost and mileage. So if it's, whatever the IRS rate is, 54 cents a mile for mileage, but we're not going to charge, for driving down here. Those are the main costs I can think of. We don't charge for things like using Westlaw. I mean, if I spend 20 minutes on Westlaw, you get billed for the 20 minutes, but you're not going to get billed the Westlaw charges.
Okay. I asked this of the other firm too, but I kind of know the answer to the question. How many jury trials have you tried, and how many non-jury trials have you tried? I know it's a lot.
I would say over 100 for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I really lost track. I mean, in the 90s, I lived in the courtroom, so I was there all the time. I really don't know how many Brian and Carolyn have tried. I'm guessing a fair number, but
Jury trials, probably 4 to 5, non-jury, probably the same amount. A lot of it is the administrative, the writ of certs, of some of that.
Are you the appeal attorney? Do you do the appeals?
No, I'm not.
Does anybody in your firm do appeals, or
yeah,
do you farm that out?
Laura clerked at the Fort DCA, and so
Okay.
she's very familiar with doing appellate work. Christy does a lot of appellate work. Jen's done a lot of appellate work, and Carolyn, I think you've done some appellate work. So we got 4 people, and I've obviously done some appellate work. So all of us have experience at the Fort DCA and the Florida Supreme Court, and even the U.S. Supreme Court. I've had, with Ken, we had a U.S. Supreme Court case a long time ago. Never got to argue it. It got resolved, but I'm at least admitted to that court. But the 11th Circuit, I've argued at the 11th Circuit. Judge Rosenberg and I were co-counsel on a case that went to the 11th Circuit en banc, and it was one of those 6-5 decisions. What you love as lawyers, when you know you really got a tough issue, and it's a really hard issue, and it created new law in the area.
You love it only when you have 6 on your side.
Well, we had the 6. We were happy. We had the 6. Our client got dismissed at the end of the day, so I was real thrilled with that decision.
So you got,
Okay. Yeah, I think he's answered everything else. What's the monthly retainer?
Nothing. I mean,
No, I mean, on regular for sitting here.
nothing.
just do an
It's $2.10 an hour.
Or are you just charging $2.10 an hour?
Just an hourly rate. I always find retainers aren't fair to anybody. You're going to pay us to be available. We're available. When we're working, you get charged for what we pay. We obviously understand budgets. We live within budgets. We work usually with the finance department and the manager in developing a budget. I've looked at your budget. I think it's in the 120s. That's, we'll certainly live within that budget. Everybody knows if a major lawsuit comes along, it blows a budget, but you talk about that and you plan for that. We try to be very efficient. I don't know if you've read in our submittal, we reduced the legal fees at Highland Beach. I think it was 40 or 50% when we became their city attorney. We wound up reducing Lake Worth about 20%. We really try to be mindful of the fact that the money doesn't need to go to lawyers. It needs to go to services for the community. Especially this is a very service-oriented community. You provide services to the community. Spending money on your lawyers is money that you're not spending on something else. So, yeah, you want your lawyers to be available. You want us to be proactive. You want us to do preventative law as much as possible. When you have to have litigation and you're going to spend money, all right, you'll spend the money. But if you don't need to spend the money, don't spend the money. And back to the whole relationship issue, that's to me the key. Again, you all have these long-standing relationships. I mean, Ken's been here a long time. I know Jamie's new, but Ken Skank before him was here a long time. Karen, 35 years. Now Tracy. It's all about, and most of our clients. I mean, I left and started the firm in '89. Healthcare District was my first client, still a client. Riviera Beach was a second client, still a client. St. Lucie County Children's Service Council.
Which healthcare district?
The one in Palm Beach County. Actually, back to the Tallahassee experience, back in those days, when I said I was a little bit of a lobbyist, we drafted that legislation, got it passed, went to referendum, defended lawsuits on it, and we've served as their lawyer ever since. Sometimes as general counsel, sometimes as special counsel, just depends on what they need. Right now, we're general counsel again, as they're going through a search process. So we're very familiar with all different forms of government. Like I said, the school board, we've represented them a lot over the years, but primarily it's cities, you know. It's cities that are somewhat comparable, although they're, you know, everybody's different. Highland Beach is somewhat comparable. Sewell's Point, we're a town attorney for both of those towns. Both have a high quality of life. Both have, you know, excellent police services, like your chief was talking about the other day. You know, got to lock your cars, right? You know, not care what community it is, you got to lock your cars and take the key with you. But we're used to working with the local police department. Obviously, work with fire rescue. Generally, that's the county nowadays. Most cities don't have their own fire department anymore.
Yeah, I just wanted to check, you have the following cities. Are you still working with Belglade
Oh, yes,
and Lake Worth,
yes.
Delray?
I haven't done much with Delray anymore. No, not with Delray.
North Palm Beach?
Yes. And with North Palm, we have joint ventures with both North Palm and Highland Beach. Len Rubin, I don't know if you know Len.
What's a joint venture?
Len Rubin law firm and our law firm together proposed to North Palm Beach back 8 or 9 years ago. Len is the primary person. Len does 80 to 90% of the work at North Palm. We do maybe 15, 20% of the work, but we still do whatever they ask us to do. We generally do some of their employment work, some of their back office work. Highland Beach is reversed. We do 80 or 90% of it. Len does about 10 or 15% of the back office.
Okay.
Gail, anything?
No, I think
I do.
he answered everything I might have.
Paralegals. Do you employ paralegals? How do you charge on them?
We do. We have one certified paralegal who's the only one we'll charge for, another woman who is a paralegal but technically doesn't have a certification. We don't charge. And it's $100 an hour, but it's not a lot because paralegals are usually used in litigation. So Joe's our certified paralegal who actually used to work with Brian in Delray. We stole her from Delray. We stalk people, frankly, you know. I mean, I stalked Brian for years, and when he was ready to leave Delray, I stalked Carolyn for years. I mean, at least 10 years, I think, to bring her on board. Jen Unicke from West Palm. Joe was with Delray. I mean, you find good people, and you just wait until the time is right, and then say, please join us.
I don't want to interrupt you.
Sure.
I do want to leave time for others if they have questions. So sometimes a short answer is much better than
Okay.
a longer one. Paralegals, $100 an hour.
Yes.
On the cost, Mr. Garcia, would you be amenable to somehow flat rating those costs? Because I personally, they just make me nuts when I see that, to have to go through that 25 cents a copy. I mean, in my own consulting business, I don't charge people for my copy machine. It's a fixed cost for.
I'm always amenable to that. I always think that one side or the other winds up losing at some point. Over the long run, it probably evens out. So come up with a number. I'm wide open to the idea.
Yeah, it's called an hourly fee.
Oh, you mean-
It's called an hourly fee. So, I mean, why would you have direct costs when you're offering us an hourly fee? You take the risk on the minor postage and travel and this and that, and let's not nickel and dime each other. Give us a rate that is all inclusive, or give us a $210 and then, listen, what I want is another 22 cents a month for administrative.
I'm open to that idea. We're definitely open to that idea.
Okay, and my only other point is, we do not have a softball team, but you do have a sense of humor, and I appreciate that. It's an
I just
inside
one
joke.
more question. How many total attorneys do you have in your?
We have seven.
Seven.
We have seven.
I didn't hear that.
For the record, Commissioner, that baseball team that I was telling you that Jim and I played on, he was the captain.
Yeah, but I was not the best hitter. I'll tell you one other story. He's a lot faster than he looks.
He used to be.
I still have memories of him going, you know, first to third on a base hit, sliding into third, thinking, man, this guy can move.
Carol, I'm very impressed by the arm wrestling that you would win. He said you would win the arm wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
My arms are a little longer than.
That's okay.
She's also probably the smartest one of the three of us, I have to say.
Well, thanks very much. Appreciate it. Any other questions?
No,
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all very much. We look forward to it.
thank you. So are we discussing between read all?
I think I wait to the end.
You want to wait till the end?
Yeah,
Okay.
because right now we only have 3 minutes for the next.
Okay.
Okay, so they're just charging a flat 210 per hour and
That
no
makes me
retainer?
nervous.
Not really,
Well,
because
I just did the
if you actually add it
Figure
up,
out how many hours.
how many
I
hours?
just did the number. If we have,
Right.
if we have 3 meetings per month that they have to attend, give them 2.5 hours for each meeting.
Plus
times
prep or follow-up?
Times 2. Well, I'm including that. The
Right.
meetings will only last an hour sometimes. Our meetings go a little bit longer, but
Right.
planning and zoning doesn't. So that's 18,900. That's what the number is.
18,000 a month,
900
a
a
year?
year.
Oh.
Yeah.
What I would probably think
If
is
you
probably
double
double that.
If you
Double
double
that.
that for the research.
Double that,
they're
36,000.
doing.
Yeah, right.
What do you think of it, Ken?
Well, you know, for many years, the system that we used here for Lewis Longman was a monthly retainer. And then for things outside the retainer, an hourly fee, a blended hourly rate,
And
which
you
is
wound
in
up
the. it's in
retiring
the-
early on that. Just saying.
Not that early.
The, what I did every year.
Just saying.
You know, I kept track of all the time, even though we were doing it on a monthly retainer, and at the end of the year, or as we went into budget, I would go back and break it out at our hourly rate and determine whether or not we ended up putting more time in than the retainer covered, or putting less time in than the retainer covered, and we would adjust the retainer. The retainer was anywhere, it fluctuated up and down year after year, anywhere from 5,000 to 7,500. It just depended on, because it's not just a matter of coming to the meetings, it's dealing with staff, it's preparation, it's doing research, it's doing memos, all of that was covered. Things that weren't covered were labor negotiations, litigation, anything that could be considered extraordinary, you know, beyond the norm. It involved, of course, covering the P&Z meetings, the Board of Adjustment meetings, and all that.
You were being paid hourly in arrears, basically, hourly by looking out the back window at where you've been.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Point of clarification, Ken Khalil again. Historically, we did not have a retainer relationship. About 5 or 6 years ago, I think, or 7
Oh,
years,
no, no, no.
longer? No,
It was-
not when
it
you
was
came
longer.
on. When Paul and all the other ones.
Oh, yeah, no,
before
no, no,
that.
right.
And then it was still a few years into it. It wasn't-
Right.
you were
When we
still
started, we did it hourly.
hourly.
Right.
So it wasn't, it was several years into it when you proposed doing the retainer
Yeah, I'd say maybe
agreement.
4 or 5 years into it.
Yeah, just so you know.
I forgot this. Do I need to disclose, well, I guess I am disclosing that I represented Glenn's daughter in some litigation a couple of years ago.
Did you win?
Of course I did.
Glenn was my,
Silly
That was the
question.
captain of your baseball team.
and
Thank
my,
you.
and my landlord, too.
Oh, okay. Any other
So,
intimate
welcome.
relationships?
Welcome.
The diocese or the podium is yours.
Morning, Mayor Pugh, Commissioners,
Morning.
Morning.
Ken, Jamie.
Morning.
My name is Max Lohman, R. Max Lohman of Lohman Law Group. Thank you very much for inviting us here this morning. We're honored to be here, to be even considered to serve as your town council. I'm just going to give you a little brief opening, and then I would.
Just before you do that,
Sure.
excuse me, just before you do that, to be fair, we had some questions that we have given to the other firms prior to starting your presentation, and we'd like to give those to you now.
Okay, well,
Right. Here are kind of the areas that we're looking at, and if you could cover them, we can cut down on questions and answers after your presentation. We want you to know the hourly rates for your lawyers, paralegals, if you plan to pass through those charges to us, especially for extra matters. How many years of experience? What do you folks do to keep track of bills and that are going to affect municipalities in in our legislature in Tallahassee? How do you keep abreast of that kind of issue, whether they have a presence in Tallahassee or not? Labor contract negotiations, because we do have a union. The litigation experience that you have, trials, jury trials, appeals, things like that. Who do you plan to send to the meetings and their particular expertise? and experience. And your pass-throughs to the counter postage, Xerox, things like that, how you plan to handle your telephone calls, things like that, how do you plan to handle that?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, again, most of what I can tell you about us is really we included in our response to the request for proposals letter of interest. Our law firm is relatively new, but I've been practicing in the municipal field exclusively for the last 11 years, and Ms. Jornby, my associate, has been an attorney for over 14 years and has been practicing exclusively in the area of municipal law for 4.5, nearly 5 years now. I'm board certified specialist in city, county, local government law. As you can see from my resume, I previously worked at the firm of Corbett, White & Davis, where I worked there for almost 11 years, and that's where I got most of my experience in representing local governments. I've been the city attorney for the city of Palm Beach Gardens for the last 8 years. Actually since 2008, I began serving them as their special counsel for code enforcement matters in November of 2007. And when they decided to, their prior city attorney decided to leave employment, they chose me to be their interim city attorney, and then subsequently I was chosen to be their city attorney. I've been the town attorney for the town of Lantana since 2006, although I've been representing them since 2004. I was the assistant town attorney before that. I'm also general counsel. I serve as general counsel of the West Palm Beach Downtown Development Authority, as well as serving as general counsel to the Delray Beach Downtown Development Authority. I've been serving in the capacity as general counsel for West Palm Beach since 2007. Previously, before I became an attorney, I was in the Navy for many, many years as I was a Navy helicopter pilot. The thing that I think our firm brings to this more than anything else is if you don't have to be a rocket scientist to look at the firms that you guys have narrowed down today, and the thing that makes us different than everybody else is we're the smallest. The advantage to that is the two faces you see right here are the only two people you'll ever be dealing with if you choose us to be your town attorney. You're not going to pick up the phone and call our office and end up talking to somebody else. You're not going to call me with a question or ask me to do legal work and then find that someone you've never seen before is the one that's actually authoring your resolution or reviewing your contract or dealing with whatever legal challenge the town may be facing. That's one of the advantages that I think we bring to the table above all the other firms. Small doesn't mean incapable. Small means dynamic and responsive. We don't spend a lot of time employing a bunch of administrative staff and people that don't bring any value to our clients in reality, rather than doing the work ourselves. In modern days, the idea of dictating things to your secretary and over a dictaphone and then having it transcribed and then reviewing it are pretty much passé. I mean, the IBM Selectrix has long since passed. We all type and do our own work. We do our own work, and that's so you don't get somebody else drafting something and then paying the attorney to sit there and figure out what they wrote and then review it. That, to me, is one of the biggest things, one of the most important things, and the unique thing that we bring to the table is our responsiveness and our ability to be very dynamic and available to our clients all the time. The other thing is that we're available 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all the time. Drives my wife a little crazy. I have my cell phone with me all the time. I answer it all the time. My clients call me. The only time I don't answer my client's call is when I'm in a meeting with another client. We pride ourselves on our ability to make each one of our clients feel like it's the only client we have. And if you had any questions at all about that, I would invite you to call any one of the references from our existing clients, whether it be the City of Palm Beach Gardens, the Town of Lantana, or the West Palm Beach Downtown Development Authority, and ask them whether or not that is in fact true. Palm Beach Gardens is a relatively large city, especially compared to the town of Ocean Ridge, and we serve that city of over 50,000 people. The two of us serve that city. We deal with all of their needs. The only thing we don't deal with, and I'll just segue into the labor issue that you had asked about, is labor. And I'll tell you the reason that I don't typically do labor, is that I personally believe that it precipitates a conflict of interest. If I'm serving you as your town attorney, because the town attorney advises your staff as well, and I'm giving one of your staff legal advice that the course of action that they're choosing is legally sufficient, it's the smart thing to do, and then they go and take that action, and then it turns out that the action they took ends up being something, maybe they misconstrue it, they do it wrong, but they claim they did it under advice of the town attorney, and they go take that action, and it becomes something that the town incurs liability for, then you choose to terminate that employee. Now I'm in a situation where I can neither serve you nor that employee. I gave them legal advice in their professional capacity as an employee of the town, serving as the town, and now I can't, and now the interests have diverged. How can I represent you? It's a conflict of interest. I can't now represent you and continue to give you legal advice and defend you in potentially a labor lawsuit while I gave the advice that precipitated that very lawsuit. So I've always advised people against in-house labor counsel with their general counsel. I think it's much wiser to go with outside counsel because it doesn't come up that often. Those labor issues aren't something that occur every day. It doesn't happen all the time, and you avoid that potentiality of that uncomfortable conflict. So that's why we don't really engage in labor law. We do advise occasionally on minor labor issues with our municipalities, but we don't get very involved in the labor issue. The hourly rate, as I put in my proposal, our hourly rate was $195 for general work and $225 for litigation, which I think is really right on par with what is a normal rate right now for municipalities. It's certainly not high in the world of general of general representation. As the attorneys up there know, it can be very, very expensive. Some attorneys charge astronomical fees for litigation. I mean, $700, $800, $900 an hour is not at all outside the realm of what is charged. Whether I think it's worth it or not I'll reserve judgment on.
Raise those rates.
And again, I've already really kind of gone over our years of experience in the labor contract negotiations. I would be your lead counsel. I would serve as your town attorney with Ms. Jordan be serving as the assistant town attorney to back me up and do additional work and be available to the town if for some reason I was not available. You know, it's always smart to do anyway, just in case you're sick, you have the sniffles, something happens, your car breaks down, you have a family emergency, you always need someone else to be serving and another person that you could reach out and contact and get the legal advice and the services that you need. Pass-through costs. There's a difference between fees and costs. Costs are hard costs that are incurred in the representation of a client, as I included in my proposal. The things that we charge for as far as costs would be things like if we have to FedEx something, there's a FedEx package that has to be sent to you. And if the client says, hey, I want that now, I need it FedEx, then we would FedEx it to you, and then that would be a pass-through cost. That is a cost. Filing fees, if we had to bring a lawsuit on your behalf and we had filing fees, then of course those are normal court costs. Those are costs that are passed through to the client. The rest of it is fee is what you pay for professional services. So when you're talking to me, you need legal advice. We're drafting paperwork for you. We're drafting documents, whether it be a contract or an ordinance or a resolution, or reviewing those documents. Those are legal fees, and that's what those charges would be. I did offer in here two different potential billing mechanisms. One being a monthly retainer, then with hourly fee if it exceeded that monthly retainer, and then the other one being hourly. I will tell you that in my opinion, I think a straight hourly rate typically more benefits the client than it does the firm, and I think it's the smarter way to go, especially if you have attorneys that are diligent about trying to be efficient and bill you for the things they're doing, not for the things they wish they had done for you, padding their bills, trying to fluff their pillow, so to speak. This is really just about billing for the work that's done and then sending you that bill, that invoice, so that you have a reasonable, you're getting what you paid for. I will tell you that worked very well for the City of Palm Beach Gardens and all of my clients, but my two municipal clients especially. The City of Palm Beach Gardens, when they had in-house counsel, they had one attorney, and they largely farmed out the vast majority of, probably 45 to 50% of their work got farmed out to other firms, one of which you already interviewed today. They were sending them work. They had a dedicated contract attorney who was a solo practitioner, and then they had another law firm that was doing other land use and zoning. When they hired me as their city attorney, over the last 8 years, I've reduced on average their annual legal fees by $200,000. They were paying well over $500,000 a year in legal fees before I became their city attorney. And they have realized no degradation in the quality of their service. Moreover, we've done things in the City of Palm Beach Gardens that no other law firm has done, certainly in Palm Beach County and in some instances the state. I'm the only law firm in the state to have successfully defended a challenge by the IRS. They were attacking the status of our independent contractors and whether or not they were in fact employees. In a city the size of Palm Beach Gardens, it was very important because it was our recreational programs, tennis instructors, our golf pro, art classes, dance classes, all these extracurricular recreational facilities were all independent contractors, and the IRS has been going around systematically attacking municipalities trying to audit them for that. They audited us, and they tried to tell us, well, these are all independent contractors. It took about a year. Fortunately, I was able to avoid going to U.S. Tax Court. I am a member of the U.S. Tax Bar, but we were able to successfully challenge that and overturn their audit and get a letter that said that we actually are complying with Section 503 of the 1978 Internal Revenue Act, and we were afforded safe harbor. And that allowed us to then maintain our programs and avoid a $200,000 back tax and penalty bill. Also, just very recently, as recently as December of this month, we just won summary judgment, a successful defense of an ordinance in Palm Beach Gardens banning the retail sale of cats and dogs within the city boundaries in an attempt to curb puppy mills and the overpopulation of animals and unwanted animals in Palm Beach County. That ordinance was met with a great deal of acrimony from some people, especially the operating pet stores that were in the city. We had 2 at the time that were actively selling puppies and kittens to people. They threatened to sue us, and our council had the intestinal fortitude to go ahead and pass the ordinance anyway, and they did sue us. And my job was to make sure that the ordinance was crafted in a fashion that would withstand judicial scrutiny. There was already a lawsuit pending in the city of Sunrise over a similar matter in federal court. They brought the suit. Ours was a case of first impression under the Florida Constitution. They brought it under the Florida Constitution in circuit court here in Palm Beach County, seeking an injunction, alleging a violation of equal protection, a violation of their substantive due process rights, and claiming vested rights and asserting a defense of equitable estoppel, saying that we should have been equitably estopped from prohibiting them from selling cats and dogs. Took about a year. The plaintiff dragged their feet a little bit, but I finally, on December, got in front of Judge Sasser for a motion for summary judgment December 10th, and she issued a written order upholding our ordinance. And now Delray Beach this very month is considering an ordinance very similar to the one that I drafted, and they're going to be moving forward with ours. Broward County is reviewing that ordinance, and all these other municipalities were eagerly awaiting the outcome of our defense, because if we didn't successfully defend it, they all knew they weren't going to adopt the ordinance. So we were carrying a pretty big load, really, in reality, because it wasn't just about our city. The significance of it was not lost on us, and realizing that if we did not prevail, if we did not do a good job, and we didn't successfully defend this ordinance, that it was going to have significant negative effects on any municipality or county that, well, certainly in this circuit, that was seeking to adopt such an ordinance. And we also, I think one of the more noteworthy things we've done is successfully got the Department of Justice to stop investigating our city. Again, a lot of these issues come out of the city of Palm Beach Gardens because it's a large city, and so they're faced with a lot of challenges that other cities that sometimes don't deal with. But this is one that any municipality could deal with. It was the way they regulated houses of worship. A lot of municipalities, churches, and synagogues and mosques have to be located with a special exception use, a conditional use permit. You can't it's not a zoning as a matter of right. That's the way it was. That regulatory scheme's in place in numerous municipalities, and it was in place in the city of Palm Beach Gardens, and we got challenged. A couple of churches complained, filed a complaint with the Department of Justice, and your attorney can tell you that whenever a 3-lettered federal agency comes looking for you, it's never good news. And so when the Department of Justice was threatening to investigate our city, they actually were investigating us, and they were threatening to file a lawsuit to overturn our zoning code, and they have a tendency to go pretty heavy-handed with it. They end up trying to overturn as much of your zoning code as they possibly can, not just the provisions they don't like. I set about trying to figure out a way to alter the regulatory scheme. I had issues with it before, our regulatory scheme, but there wasn't really the political will to make that change at the time. So this precipitated the desire to make that change, and then so we altered it. We came up with a way to regulate everything as an assembly use based upon the size of the zoning district and the number of people that were assembling rather than what they were assembling for. Reasonable time, place, and manner regulations. It really, to me, wasn't that difficult of a solution. It was just one that nobody was really willing to consider before. Ironically, the same attorney that sued the city of Hollywood over a very similar situation was the same attorney that was doing the investigation against us, and I recognized his name because I remembered the Hollywood Synagogue versus the City of Hollywood case. And in this Arlupa matter, and I knew where he was and where it was going to go. The City of Hollywood resisted and ended up paying over $2 million. I was doing everything I could to make sure that my client didn't experience that kind of negative equity, if you will, and have to come out of pocket for $2 million for something that was relatively easy to remedy. And so we did. One of the things we have experienced litigating cases, Ms. Jorenby practiced as a criminal law, as a prosecutor in Orlando for how many years? About 7 years. She has done, when we were at our former firm, has done numerous forfeiture and seizure, civil forfeiture cases. We've done foreclosure cases for code enforcement. And again, like I said, we've successfully defended our ordinances and resolutions for our municipalities, as well as numerous appeals of quasi-judicial decisions, code enforcement appeals, and I'm actually even prosecuting a petition for writ of cert, or filed a petition for writ of cert on behalf of the City of Palm Beach Gardens against Palm Beach County. So while we work very, very hard to avoid litigation, because I think that, well, honestly, I think the only people that really make out in litigation, if it can be avoided, are the attorneys. I think the best thing to do is to avoid litigation if possible and reach an amicable resolution of the issue. I think in municipal law, it's unique in that I tell people this, that, well, I can put the toothpaste back in the tube. That's not my specialty. I'm the guy you call before you squeeze it out all over the floor. If you talk to me first, we work we work very closely with our town and city managers to find out what it is that you want to do. What is this change that you want to make? Very frequently, it's not a heavy lift. It's not rocket science, so to speak. And it's just coming up with a solution that works and something that will avoid litigation. Let's pass a law that's actually legal instead of doing things just because it seems like a good idea. The other advantage that we have from our years of practice in municipal law is literally I have a data bank of electronic files that are over a decade long. While the town of Ocean Ridge, certainly being a small coastal community, faces its own unique challenges compared to some of the larger municipalities that are inland, most municipal issues are somewhat similar. And that being the case, there's a file, whatever issue comes up, 9 times out of 10, I have a file or an issue that I've already dealt with it. So we pull that file, we update the research, of course, to make sure that, see if anything has changed, and then we move forward. So you're not getting billed hours and hours and hours for research so we can learn about the issue. Because I've already dealt with it, odds are. Like I said, I've limited my practice to city, county, and local government representation for over a decade. As far as, what was the other issue you asked for? Tracking the bills. We use, it's one of the really interesting things about our business model is that the way that we operate is we very strongly leverage information technology and the software and hardware that's available. Our bills are used through a cloud-based billing system. Ms. Jornby can put her time in anywhere, anytime, as long as she has internet access. So do I. It's 128-bit encrypted. I can access that information. I go through it, I review it, I track it, and see what's been done, what the entries are. If I have a question about something, I speak to her about it. Well, what was this? How was this used? Or I talk to the staff member that asked for the legal services. I can tell you that in the time that I've been practicing in municipal law, the times I've had clients actually have an issue or a question with my bill, it was really about something that they wanted it under a different heading, because they were breaking out their bills rather than the amount or the time.
Thank you. All right, question and answers. Jim, you want to start?
Yeah, let's see. What, can you give me the number of jury trials and non-jury trials you've handled in dealing with municipality issues?
Gosh, I've never had to have a jury trial. Not yet. I've never had to have a jury trial representing my municipalities. Like I said, I think that...
Any non-jury trials?
Non-jury trials, let's see. I've handled, 2? I think I've had 2 bench trials.
Okay. If, as I understood it, it's only the 2 of you in the practice, correct?
Correct.
Do you have a plan in the event both of you are tied up for some reason and can't cover something that we have that's pressing? Do you have a backup plan for that?
If there was something that for some reason occurred, that for whatever reason neither one of us could attend your meeting because of illness or some kind of, God forbid, a tragedy that took us both out, I have an agreement with Brad Biggs, the attorney Brad Biggs, that he's got, because he's a solo practitioner, that he has clients that he has no one to cover his clients if something were to happen to him, and we have a reciprocal agreement that if something happened to him, we would cover his meeting for him, and the same thing in the rare event that it would happen to us.
What kind of experience does Mr. Briggs have?
Mr. Biggs has been practicing in municipal law since 1988 exclusively, and he's board certified in city, county, and local government law since 2008.
Okay.
We used to
For
work
the record,
together.
he's the attorney in South Palm Beach.
Yes.
Okay.
He's the attorney for South Palm Beach in the Village of Gulf. Bradley Biggs also used to work at our previous employer. He worked there for gosh, like from 1998 till 2013? Late
Okay.
2013?
On your billing, do you plan to pass through costs for paralegal and support staff, things like that, in Westlaw?
No.
No? Okay.
No, Westlaw to me is the cost of doing business.
Okay, how do you keep track of the bills in Tallahassee that keep us appraised of?
I'm sorry, that's the other question that you asked. One of the advantages of me representing the city of Palm Beach Gardens, and as well as the town of Lantana, is they both are actually using the same lobbyist. And they use that lobbyist tracks the bills, and so I'm always privy to what's going on. The city of Palm Beach Garden, being as large as it is, has significant legislative concerns every year in every session. And so I'm always kept abreast of that through the lobbyist, and I also monitor it myself.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay. Rich?
Just an observation. The nice thing about helicopter pilots is they tend to be really well prepared before they take off. Those things.
It is an
Unlike
occupational
fixed-wing
necessity.
airplanes, those things fly like refrigerators when you lose power. And so, and thank you for your service to the country.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Do you know Jeff Liggio? I think he was a Navy helicopter pilot.
Say again, sir?
Jeff Liggio, he's an attorney in West
No,
Palm
no,
Beach.
sir,
He
I've
was
never met
a
him.
Navy helicopter pilot, too. He's a little bit older, I think, than you.
They're all
My
lows.
age. I have
Any
no
other
other
questions?
No, I think you've covered everything I had.
Well, I think we've covered it all.
Great. Well,
Thank
thank
you
you
very
again
much for
having
coming
us.
in.
It's our pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
You're the daughter of Richard Jordanby?
I am, yes.
That must have caused quite a conversation at the family supper table when you went to the state attorney's office.
Exactly, exactly, no, but you know, it's good to have both sides, so it makes you a better attorney to have to argue both sides.
Well, very nice to meet you.
Thank you again for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
Richard Jordanby used to be our public defender.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
So it's really interesting, the
Yeah.
difference of what a large firm and a small firm offer. You know, I'm trying to weigh who is going to.
It's, yeah.
Interesting.
Anybody who enjoys being an asset forfeiture fund.
I mean, there's a lot of positives and negatives, you know, both ways.
Yeah.
We're saying-
It's an irritable law that I find.
Well, he looked tired.
Yeah?
And you'd see that, he looked tired, she looked tired. I've been working.
I mean, it's amazing.
No, it's good for him.
I don't know. That's,
Is one of them just jumping out at
I
you?
wouldn't be, if you're looking at the town's interest, I would say that would not be something that the town would want to gamble on all the issues that are coming up with beach issues,
I mean, from an
zoning issues, and then with the
experience point of view.
Well, we can talk about this
Yeah, Torchivia's firm is not going to have to go up to speed on our rules and regulations. I mean, that's a positive.
Well, we'll go over all this at the end, too.
But I'm
Some
not,
are more likable than others too. I mean, you feel that connection.
yeah,
Oh, I like them all.
Yeah.
they're all very nice.
So anxious and happy.
What do you think, Betty?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting, actually.
Right. Because it's from 60 to 2 now.
I also think it's mostly about experience. And to me, that's the key.
Well, there's nobody in here
Experience
who's
is
not experienced.
experience. What's that?
There's nobody who came up here who has less than 10, 15 years. I mean, they're really,
Well, experience in the sense of experience in all matters that we have to relate to the town.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, but he made a mistake. He said, and that he was, the IRS wanted them to be employees, and he had us independent contractors.
One of the things that I did when I was a capital agency was organize Florida to march on Washington and make them clean up and conduct it. And we did it for 2 years running, because one RSA would say, you're doing it absolutely right. The next year they would hit you with a $100,000 fine that you were doing it all wrong, because the law was so loose. It's better than it used to be.
Well, now they have the 17-point rule. what an independent contractor is, what an employee is. So, it's pretty cut and dry.
And for Florida. Yeah, I use a lot of independent contractors.
Yeah. All good so far.
One more to go.
One more.
I think we need to decide today, guys.
I don't see why.
I don't see why not.
I don't see why not.
Okay.
I mean, let's do it. He's leaving in March. We gotta, and there's gotta
Oh,
be
my
some
goodness,
overlap.
that's
Yeah.
like tomorrow.
Yeah, and he's gotta
Come
have
on.
some overlap time, and what's gonna change it between today and next week? I mean, gonna know as much today as I know next week.
You mean
Oh,
Wait,
this
I'm
you
not
mean.
learning anything in a week. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. I learn every day. Disregard
Well, I
that.
mean, the thing that I think we need to look at is if, I think the Torcivia firm was just strictly hourly, right? There was no monthly retainer.
Well, like I said, that's
So-
what, wait.
Everybody would work with
wait,
Yeah,
that.
we
wait,
need
wait.
Everybody.
Well, wait a
We
second,
just kind of
let's-
get an idea of what the hourly
Right,
hours.
Right, but let's wait for this conversation until at the
Right.
end,
After.
okay?
yeah.
Because,
Well, all I'm saying is that
Right.
if we don't have the information of approximately how many hours we would anticipate, we may need to get that information.
everyone would work with us.
well, that's why we can
Everybody
ask our
also.
attorney.
Yes.
Right.
So,
Right.
well, just wait until after everybody's, and then we can broach every one of these subjects and
Right.
questions.
Because everybody said, we'll work with you, because everybody wants to do this.
Okay. Well, it's 11:01, where is everybody?
Yeah.
Well, you can call them in, can't you? Rich should be back.
The 7:30 meeting,
We're ready.
let's do it.
Rich is back.
Let's not fold down, let's get it going, get it done.
Right. 3 down, 1 to go. Nothing burned down, right? No. Okay, yours or mine, right? Did you make progress?
A little, it rained a lot.
I know, I left and took the sunshine. Sorry.
Now, who's this? This is Corbett White Davis and Ashton.
Corbett White, okay, here we go.
Hello,
Good morning.
welcome.
Get my stuff out real quick. Yeah, please, thank you.
I was kidding about that.
You guys are all
Just
here
bef-
for the dance recital, right?
Absolutely, yes, I've been practicing.
Just before you start, to be fair, we've had a list of questions that we have given the other firms prior to doing your presentation.
Okay.
So, no further
Yeah,
ado-
here are the points that we'd like you to talk about and kind of cut down on our questions and answers. Let me find my notes. Your hourly rates, especially for extra matters, what you charge for lawyers if you pass through paralegals and support staff, and how many years of experience the attorneys in your firm have in municipal issues. I call this a presence in Tallahassee, how you keep track of bills that may affect municipalities in general and our town in particular. Your experience in labor contract negotiations and union issues. Your litigation experience, trials and appeals. Who you plan to send to the meetings, and if you can identify that person or persons and give us their experience. And your costs passed through to the town, things like postage, Xerox, copies, Westlaw, paralegal issues, things like that. Okay? Thank you.
Okay. Just writing these down. Okay. Would you like me to just give a brief introduction as to who we are and the attorneys in our firm, and then I'll go through the questions that you've presented?
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. Good morning to everybody, and my name is Jennifer Ashton. I'm a shareholder at the firm of Corbett White Davis and Ashton. We are seeking general counsel services from the town of Ocean Ridge, and I am going to start by just going through my experience a little bit. I'll try to address some of your points, and then I'll introduce the people that are with me, and then I'll go a little more thoroughly through your questions. Again, I have been an attorney with Corbett White Davis and Ashton for about 5 years. I am currently the village attorney for the Village of Royal Palm Beach. I'm also general counsel for the Palm Beach County League of Cities, along with Trela White.
Repeat that, please.
Absolutely.
Just the last one.
Sure. With Trela White, Palm Beach County League of Cities, general counsel. And also, I am the code enforcement special magistrate for the city of West Palm Beach. Prior to joining my current firm, I was a litigation attorney in West Palm Beach at the firm of Jones, Foster, Johnston & Stubbs. I focused my practice on commercial and business litigation and also on appellate law. Currently, I practice mostly land use and local government law, but my background as a litigator, I have a wide range of experience on litigation and appellate matters as well. As I said before, I also am the code enforcement special magistrate for the city of West Palm Beach. I have vast experience in code enforcement matters. I have prosecuted thousands of code enforcement cases for the cities that we represent, and also I have presided over thousands of cases as a special magistrate. So I am very, very aware of code enforcement process and also what happens to your liens after foreclosures, which is a huge deal for cities right now in trying to negotiate with banks and new property owners and trying to recover costs back for cities on liens that may or may not have been foreclosed. With me today, I have Keith Davis. He is a shareholder at my firm as well, and he's also the managing partner. Keith is board certified in local government and land use law, and he is a well-respected, well-known attorney in Palm Beach County. Keith currently serves as general counsel for 5 of our cities. For City of Atlantis, Village of Tequesta, Town of Manalapan, Town of Mangonia Park, and Town of Palm Beach Shores. I think I got him, yes. Okay. He's also general counsel for the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, and he serves as special counsel for many other cities. He is a specialist in utilities within right-of-way, especially telecommunication cell tower facilities. Also with me today, I have Erin Deedy. She is of counsel with our firm. Erin is a preeminent environmental and land use attorney. In addition to being an attorney, she is also a certified planner, and Erin has been at the forefront of green energy initiatives, retrofitting buildings. She has created and helped orchestrate the movement forward of the green energy financing, where businesses will come in and ask to retrofit buildings to make them more energy efficient, and Erin has helped set up a special district to help them accomplish that, where money is given to them for those types of projects, and then they pay that back through special assessments on their tax bills. So Erin is a great resource for green energy. She also is very well versed in flood risks and comprehensive planning for flood risks. She's worked extensively with Monroe County on those type of issues, so we think that she provides great value and is part of our team. She is of counsel with us, but she is in our actual office and is available whenever we need her. Okay, so Corbett White Davis and Ashton, let me just give you a little synopsis of the firm in general. We were established in 1990 by our founding partners, Trela White and John Corbett. You may have heard of them. They have been around for almost 3 decades, and they are very well-known local government land use attorneys. They are currently semi-retired with us now, but they still are available to us on an as-needed basis, and they provide a great historical perspective for our firm. They have been around since 1990, and they know how Palm Beach County works. They know how local government in Palm Beach County works, and so we think that they are an incredible asset on our team if we ever did need them. Okay, so let me go through your questions to me. Hourly rates for general matters and special matters, and then if there are any paralegal or administrative charges. We're proposing to have a general matter rate of $190 an hour. That is a blended rate, meaning that every attorney in our firm charges the same amount. You will not have Keith or myself with more experience charging more than an associate would charge. The nice thing about that is it provides you a cap on your fees. You are not going to be having a partner with 10, 15 years of experience charging you $250, $350, $450 an hour like you would a lot of times in private sector. We do the blended rate. For special matters, if the unforeseen happens and you find yourselves in litigation, which we always try to avoid, but sometimes it does happen, we're proposing a rate of $225 an hour. Again, that would be a blended rate. So if Keith or myself were working on it versus an associate working on it, it would be the same rate for you. Paralegal charges, we do not have any paralegals in our firm. We have office assistants, but that administrative time, you do not get charged an hourly rate for their administrative time. On your bills, you will only see attorney time billed. For administrative costs like postage, FedExes, etc., on your bill each month, we don't itemize those charges to you. You will instead see a 4% administrative charge to cover our telephones, our facsimile charges, postage charges, etc. The one thing that you may see itemized on your bill that we consider an administrative charge is if you have any recording costs. So if you have code enforcement liens that need to be recorded, we do show those itemized on your bill. Okay, years of experience for attorneys in our firm. Okay, myself, I have 5 years of experience in local government and land use law. And then I have been an attorney for over 10 years. As I said before, prior to starting with this firm, I had litigation experience. That was all I did. I did litigation and appellate law. So overall, I have over 10 years of experience as an attorney. Keith Davis has a whole lot more experience. Yes, he has been with Corbett White Davis and Ashton for over 15 years? 15 years. And before that, he was a prosecutor with the state attorney's office, so he also has criminal background experience, which may be helpful in some of your police matters. Hopefully not. You never know.
Palm Beach
Didn't
County
tell me you
State
had a
Attorney?
criminal background.
I worked for Barry Krischer for about 10 years back in the 1990s, which was a great experience.
Aaron, I know, has been associated with Corbett White Davis and Ashton for about 5 years. Is that correct? Okay. Then she previously worked at Lewis, Longman & Walker and Audubon Society, doing mainly environmental law. I think your total years of experience is 15? Okay, just want to make sure. Sorry.
Well, she's been in this town hall many times.
Yes. She told me she was able to secure some great grant monies for you guys a few years back to help you retrofit this building and some other environmental planning. So we also have in our firm an associate. His name is Jack Rice. He has been with our firm since February of 2015. Prior to joining our firm, he was with the Palm Beach County Legal Aid Society, where he cut his teeth on litigation matters. He is an expert in fair housing laws, ADA laws, and civil rights litigation, which we have found so helpful because of sober homes and group home issues and ADA compliance issues that a lot of cities are facing right now. So Jack has been a great addition to our team. As I said before, John and Trila are available as of counsel. They've been attorneys for over 30 years. And I think that sums up the attorney experience. Yes. Okay, presence in Tallahassee was one of your questions. We are the general counsel for the Palm Beach County League of Cities. With that comes a great insight into what is happening in Tallahassee at all times. We are always aware of the bills that are coming through that are going to be impacting cities. We're getting ready to start a new session. I was talking to Aaron earlier about that. There are going to be some water bills coming through that may affect utility costs, so we will be monitoring those. But the nice thing about being the general counsel for the League of Cities is, again, we find out about issues ahead of time. And a lot of times we are helpful in crafting the solutions to those issues. We help get everyone organized to go up to Tallahassee, have the electeds get organized, give them talking points if they need them, and go up and fight some of these measures that are really trying to restrict your home rule. Our belief is that you, as commissioners in the town of Ocean Ridge, should have control over what happens in your town, and the state and the county and the federal government should not be able to come in and impose some of these crazy measures on you. So we do not lobby up in Tallahassee ourselves, but again, through our role with the League of Cities, we are up to speed on what is going on during the legislative sessions. Okay. Yes.
If I may just add to that, kind of dovetailing onto Trila White being of counsel with the firm, an additional benefit that we have that we pass on to you. She is in line in the next 2 years to be president of the Florida Municipal Attorneys Association, which is an association of all of us throughout the state, which is another way that we're dialed into state level municipal legal issues at the forefront and up sort of ahead of the curve. So that would be something else that would benefit you. I did want to mention that.
All right, are you good with me going forward, or do you have any other
Absolutely.
questions? Okay. Labor contract negotiation experience. Keith and myself do not actually sit on labor negotiation teams. That is a firm philosophy of ours, and I'll get into that in a little bit. We do, however, review labor contracts. We have done that. We review them for legal sufficiency, legal correctness. And we advise you as the commission on what is going on with the labor negotiation. We keep you informed. We talk to the manager and are up to speed on what's happening. Other labor and employment issues, we have many times drafted manager contracts, fire chief contracts, chief of police contracts, so we do have experience in that. Labor negotiations. Our firm philosophy is that general counsel and labor counsel should be separate. That has been our philosophy for a long time. The reason that we feel that way is a lot of times in a labor negotiation, if your general counsel is the labor counsel, it gets combative, it can get nasty, it can get ugly. Those are tough negotiations. And if we are in there as labor counsel and are having to beat up your chief of police, beat up your police, beat up whoever we are negotiating with, and then the next day have to come in and be team players and be on the same team, there is not a legal conflict there. However, there could be an emotional conflict. And our goal as general counsel is to make sure every day we come into the town of Ocean Ridge, we are a team player with your employees. And we do not want anything getting in the way of doing that. So that is why our firm philosophy is we do not sit as the labor negotiation, labor lawyer. We have done this successfully in all of our cities. We have never had a complaint from our cities that there is separate labor counsel. In fact, it's worked very, very well. So that would be our proposal with you all as well. Okay. Litigation experience. We have a lot. As I said before, for many years did commercial and business litigation, contract litigation, appellate law. I've written many, many appellate briefs over the years. In the last 5 years, my practice has focused to land use matters and local government matters. Again, that doesn't mean we're still not doing litigation. It's just not as much because we try so hard to avoid it at all costs. At the end of the day, litigation for local governments, a lot of times you get the short end of the stick going into court. It's usually not a good situation for a local government to go to court. So we do try hard to stay out of it. But when we do, we are fully capable of handling litigation. We handle land use matters for our cities right now, land use appeals, any contract disputes that aren't covered by insurance. Your insurance counsel most likely will handle any personal injury lawsuits that you may have. If there ever is an issue where we do not feel we have the experience to handle it, we would recommend to you all to hire an outside counsel. But again, with our vast litigation experience, we're very capable of managing those outside attorneys to make sure they don't go crazy with your bills, because I have seen that happen before. Keith has a lot of litigation experience. He did litigation in the courtroom as a prosecutor. He also has land use experience, land use appeals, land use litigation, comprehensive plan challenges, and currently you're working on a fair housing appeal. Yes. Again, Jack Rice, who would be assisting us with litigation, he is a litigator. That is one of the reasons we hired him, and he has great experience with fair housing and civil rights litigation through his experience at the Palm Beach County Legal Aid Society. Erin doesn't do a whole lot of litigation except with FPL. She's been a little busy this year, but she's mainly in an advisory capacity. They hire her as an expert consultant a lot of times to provide her insight on environmental issues. So we do have that great resource to us as well if we ever needed it. Okay. Who will we send to the meetings? I am your girl. I will be here. I will be covering your meetings unless there is some unforeseen conflict that I cannot avoid. That is very rare. We are very careful when we set up meeting schedules to make sure that there are no conflicts. If for some reason I was incapacitated or something and wasn't able to come, Keith Davis would be filling in for me. So it will be either myself or him that will be here with you all, and we will be your points of contact. And just so you know too, we carry our cell phones with us all the time. I have gotten calls from council people and commissioners on the weekends, and yes, I will answer your call. So we are readily available to you at all times because issues don't always happen Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and we understand that being government attorneys. So I think I've covered your list.
Fantastic. So we'll go ahead and go right to the questions then.
Absolutely.
Jim?
Yeah, thank you. How many jury trials have you handled yourself with respect to municipal issues and non-jury trials?
With municipal issues, I have not handled any jury trials.
Okay.
We
How about
haven't had.
non-jury trials?
I've never had any go to trial.
Okay. You said you handle a lot of appeals. How many authored written opinions are you on brief? Approximately.
Let's see. Maybe 3 or 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
How about, I'm assuming Mr. Davis has had a lot of jury trial experience as a prosecutor. How many jury trials and non-jury trials he handled with respect to
I'll let him answer that.
civil, municipal issues?
The matters that I've been involved with that have gone to a jury trial capacity have all been with insurance counsel that I've sat with, so I haven't been the lead counsel, because typically in our experience, the cases that go to jury trial are the cases where money damages are being involved, and you'll have a litigation firm, which as general counsel we supervise, oversee, and work with and sit with. So there have been 2 that I can think of, but again, as general counsel working with the litigator.
Okay.
And then on briefs, at least 7 or 8
Okay.
that I've written personally.
Just out of curiosity, how many jury trials you handle when you're with the state attorney's
Oh,
office?
goodness, I have a legal pad buried in a drawer somewhere with every case and case number.
Yeah.
I stopped counting.
Okay, thank you. You did the costs, overhead, no paralegals. I think you covered all the issues in your presentation that I had.
Okay.
Thank you.
Rich?
Yeah, labor law, I want to be more clear about that. I have a couple of questions around that. So you would, if to the extent that we're hiring a new town manager, you would craft a employment document for us?
Absolutely, yes.
To the extent that we recently had, as you probably know, a rather public and contentious retirement termination, not really certain what it was,
Yes.
but we're not going to have that problem with Hal. We're just going to bury him in the backyard.
Oh, no. Okay, yeah. You sound like you're in trouble.
In a situation like that, so you have this contentious issue going on around a separation agreement, would we need to bring in a labor attorney for that, or would you handle that part?
It would really depend on the issues that are being contended. If it's something that, I would say most of the time we would be able to handle that for
Okay.
you.
So I'm to understand that when you say a labor attorney, you're talking mostly for collective bargaining and the like?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay,
Labor,
okay.
yes, I would consider separate from employment, yes.
What, name the last 3 municipalities that you had under contract that you no longer have under contract, and tell me why not.
Okay, the last 3, we had City of Palm Beach Gardens, we had Town of South Palm Beach, and Village of Gulf. All 3 of those cities left our firm because their main general counsel, their main attorneys, left our firm. That is why they went. That happens.
That's
You know,
good enough, that's
yeah.
good enough, okay.
Right.
We all generally follow our attorneys, not our law firms.
Absolutely, yes. You get comfortable with us. We understand that, absolutely.
Is that it?
That's all I have. Thank you.
No, I think everything's been covered, thanks.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you, it was
That
great
was-
meeting all of you.
Thank you for the presentation.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming, too.
Thank you.
Ken, Mayor, Commissioner?
Nice to see you, thank you.
Nice seeing you.
I think basketball team in this case.
Yeah.
Softball team.
And for the record, you all know that Aaron Dady was,
Speak up, please, Ken.
Aaron Dady was an associate and then a partner of mine at Lewis Longman. And in addition to the work that Jennifer mentioned about the grant, she also was the one who handled the comprehensive plan amendment when we were doing the stormwater drainage.
I remember her well. Yeah, she was here a lot.
All right, public comment.
So this is the medium for her.
They all seem to have gone except for you guys.
Come on, public.
All right, so let's bring it. Yeah, so let's bring it back. All right, so who wants to start? How about Gail? Gail, you want to start?
Well, I'll tell you, I sort of favor the first 2 we interviewed. I don't know, it's kind of a hard decision as far as I'm concerned, but it scares me a little bit with the small size of these last 2 firms. I like the bigger ones because there's more resources available. I don't know, I'm anxious to hear what Jim has to say.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you with respect to the firm. I am concerned that they're a 2-man operation and that we
Yeah.
don't know anything about the coverage attorney that they plan to use.
Right.
Well, we know that he was with their firm,
Right.
last firm, and now he's
Right.
with he's another firm, he's with, still with the other thing. But do you want to eliminate, so out of the 4, let's, by
Well,
process of elimination, is it a consensus that we eliminate number 3?
I think that's obvious.
Okay.
Okay.
So
They're
that
very
we,
hardworking, but they've got a
Yeah.
very heavy load.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's the
There's
thing.
just not enough,
That's it.
there's
How
not
much
enough
time
depth
is
there
there-
to cover us.
Right, I agree.
Good
So
firm,
they're in
good
Jupiter.
firm.
And they're, yeah. Well, the other one's in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah,
so-
but they were nicely saying they live
Right.
10 minutes
I know,
away
I
from
know.
it.
Yeah, and I like the helicopter pilot too, but I think they're just an overload.
Yeah.
so that leaves us with 3.
Okay.
Now, of the 3, the last firm that we have here was the least expensive at face value.
Right. I like that.
But then you get to the 4% administrative
Yes.
add-on, you
Which I
get,
thought you said you couldn't do that.
what I
Yes, you
thought.
can.
I guess you can.
Until the bar
We-
says you can't. I
We
guess.
stopped doing it.
Oh.
When,
You know, it's
Well, Vice Sirota was talking about that as a possibility also, so obviously some do it. It's 4%. It's 4% is 4% is 4%. Somebody else wants 3% a year, starting in 2017. You know,
the issue that arose was that costs, when you bill for costs, it has to be for actual costs.
right, so you have to have the receipts for
If you, well, not necessarily receipts, I mean, whatever your actual
documentation.
costs are for Xeroxing, that type of thing. It has to be, and that rate has to be a reasonable rate to
But
recoup your
Counselor,
actual
it's
costs.
their ethical dilemma, not ours.
No, I understand.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah,
explaining.
yeah.
I'm just explaining
Okay.
how this came about. And questions were raised that when you do 3% or 4%, you're not actually, you're recouping more than your actual costs. I will just tell you that in our firm, when we shifted back to doing actual costs, our revenue went down.
Right. You know, one of the things I found, excuse me, about this is that all of them are very negotiable. I think if we offered the same deal to any of these three and said, we're not doing 4%, we're doing this, we're doing that, my sense is they would definitely take it, because every one of them said we would negotiate.
I agree. This comes down to a negotiation style, I think. And so stylistically, I don't tend to negotiate people. I don't have a problem if we choose to do that collectively. But when I look at this, do we really care in this town whether or not the person sitting in that seat is getting $120,000 a year or $105,000 a year, because they're all within that range, okay? Or is it more important that we know that the person sitting there has the depth and the efficiency and the resources to reach out and is really, really committed to doing what we need them to do? So I look at this as a relationship issue.
I agree.
Because the prices are all the same. If you decide you want to negotiate the prices, that's fine. But my own summation is that Weiss Serota, very, very capable, but just very, very straight, very, very too focused, not too focused, they take themselves a little bit too seriously. Okay, and what I find that when people take themselves too seriously, they generally do not really enjoy what they're doing. The Torcivia, certainly capable, extraordinarily capable. I was a little bit taken aback by the fact that they want to nickel and dime us with these costs, you know, and rather than negotiate them, I'd say, and Corbett, that's a firm I think that we can have a relationship with. There were three people here, as with the other firms, but any one of them could sit in that seat. They've got a real long history in terms of serving a deep history, let me put it that way, in terms of serving local municipalities. And when I asked the clincher for me, who'd you lose? The only people they ever lost was people for whom their own attorneys took the client.
Right.
So somebody's got to be happy out there.
Right.
Well, they have 6 municipalities.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, my sense is I would go with 1 or 4, all right? I don't know why, I just.
See, I disagree. With my decision is basically solely based on what's the best for the town.
Correct.
That's
Correct.
That's it.
Right.
And if I was picking from the 3 that we have left over, which one has the most experience with local governments in this area and having to deal with, especially the issues we're going to have to deal with being beach issues, zoning issues. We've already done a lot of stuff with the code enforcement issues. So those issues particularly are very strong for Glenn's firm.
I don't know.
And also for the Corbett's firm, in the sense that they bring a little more youth to the table. But the reason why I'm not real built up on the first firm, even though they really did their homework and they were here, they started right out with the retainer, if you know.
And again, they negotiate.
With the what?
With the retainer. They were
They
they were the only ones with the retainer. But again, that is something we could always go back and say, look,
This is what we're willing.
this is what we're offering. If you wanted to keep it if you wanted to say, okay, let's try a couple of these, and here's the offer we're making to you, would you accept that offer? And if they do, then we can make the decision on one of the 2, or we can make the decision now on.
I think
one firm.
if we all wanted what's best for the town, and I think we all wanted, how deep do we want in terms of experience? Obviously, the first one has 60 people, so, you know, he was very serious. He was a little nervous, but what he said was that he was going to be around a lot longer than any of us, 20 or 30 years. It's a long commitment. I'm not
I
gonna
plan to
do it.
dance on his grave.
Okay.
I plan to dance on yours.
But the guy was nervous, but I mean, I just have to say that he was proactive in a few ways, and I think he'd be more flexible. And that's one of the things when we talked about that proactive, that he'd find a way to make it work for us. So I thought he was more impressive, even though, you know, we need a sense of humor here, but we could get.
Intense.
He was intense, right? But I could see him here, really. I really liked him. The other one was Corbett, because I liked working with Aaron before, and I liked, you know, the presentation that they did. So I think both of those firms, and I think if we make the decision that we're not doing a retainer, we're gonna go by the hourly rate, this is the rate we're gonna do, this is what we're gonna offer, it's a take it or leave it. We offer it to the first firm, they don't take it, we offer it to the second firm, I bet they do. I don't think that costs.
So you would offer it to,
I think we prioritize, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we make, we decide which firm we're gonna offer it to. I have a sense that they're gonna take it.
That is the approach that's often taken in hiring consultants. You rank them, you negotiate with the first one. If you don't make a deal, you go to the second choice. That way you don't have to come back to another meeting. That's the direction.
well, the decision in it was which firm do you want to present the offer to?
Let me, one of the things that I thought was important was the litigation experience, and let me tell you why. Because when you have a problem before litigation, one thing that you always need to worry about is, number one, what is this going to look like to a judge if it ever gets to a judge or a jury? And then the next issue you have to consider, I think, is can I convince 2 out of 3 judges at the 4th DCA that my position is correct? And when you have a lot of litigation experience, and not only litigation experience, trial experience,
Right.
you learn, you know, when the case first comes in, that's what you have to focus on, okay? How do I address this problem, this zoning issue, this special exception issue, this, you know, use issue? How do I address that now so that it looks best to a judge or a jury down the line, and can I convince 2 out of 3 judges at the 4th DCA that I'm correct? And that's where trial and appellate experience, I think, is invaluable to the town. And the thing that impressed me about the Torchivia firm is, I mean, I know Glenn for years, and I know he's got literally hundreds of trial cases that he's tried, jury and non-jury, over the years, and you know that too. And they all have experience, water use management with the young lady that was here. The other attorney was planning and zoning, if I remember correctly. And they have a lot of experience, trial experience in those areas. And I just think that's invaluable in addressing the problems that we get to, you know, at this stage, and to present the best face for the town if it ever gets to the point where we have to litigate the issue. And even though, like, say, the first firm,
Certainly, and there's 60 people.
they have
a lot
60
of
people, but if I heard them correctly, that team that they brought is the team that's going to be handling our
But they have access to everyone in their team.
Yeah, they call that Team Ocean Ridge.
Yeah, they call that Team Ocean Ridge, and I didn't hear a whole lot of experience now from them in the trial experience. Part of the problem when you have that, you're going to have some communication issues, kind of like a daisy chain. I tell you something, you tell her something, he tells her, and it gets to the town attorney. All of a sudden, me telling you orange gets to him as apple.
Yeah.
So sometimes.
So you think 60's too big?
Bye, Betty.
I think 60 is probably a little large.
Right.
I mean, not that it's not bad having that kind of a presence, but that's the problem when you have attorneys telling each other, you know, this is what happened at the town of Ocean Ridge, how do I address the problem, blah, blah. You know.
Well, let me ask
60
you-
attorneys, you get 90 opinions.
Yes.
Well, one of the things you said is, who's going to sit here?
Yes.
Okay, how do we feel about that person, right? And that's really important.
Right.
Somehow I didn't make any connection with Glenn. I know him, but I didn't see him sitting here.
I agree.
Right, so
But the only thing-
I like,
I'm sorry to
go on.
interrupt you. Go ahead and finish.
so if you want to look at a connection, you know, and you don't want it too big, my sense still is to go to Corbett at the end.
Well, the only reason I disagree with Glenn Torcivia, I mean, I disagree with you about his firm, is that what would be the most seamless transition from where we are now to where the new attorney would be? And what do we need? We need, the one attorney in Glenn's firm is heavy on sober homes. That's going to be a problem. That's a perfect asset. Glenn has been our special magistrate who's been in this town, working in this town for years. He knows this town inside and out. He knows what we're thinking when it comes down to our code enforcement. He knows how our code enforcement works with the chief. So he knows what we've done. I presume he knows what we've done with the homes that we've demolished and how we've done. One attorney was saying that we're helping towns on how they collect the liens. Well, we're almost experts at how to collect our liens. So how is a transition going to make to where the town actually is able to move forward with someone who's experienced with the town, knows the town inside and out, and brings the experience of all those litigation hours, different aspects. I mean, they have completely different aspects. The lady who was with the water department, that would be good if we ended up doing anything with septic systems and water service and water. So
Let me do a counterpoint to that, if I may. Who's a really, really good town attorney that we know? Do we all agree?
Right.
He's kept us out of so much trouble, avoided so much trouble, solved so many problems. He's not an expert on water management. He's not an expert on necessarily labor law. He knows where to go to get the answers, but the most important, he never forgets that his job is to short circuit any trouble we're about to get ourselves into. So I would argue to you that what you're looking for is that expertise on sober homes. If you're a municipal attorney, you may not be the world's authority on it, but you've already got your finger on the pulse of it. Okay, you have to. This is not rocket science. It is professional study and knowing where to go to ask the question, what question to ask. Number one. Number two, the counterpoint to that is who I would like to see sitting in that chair is not somebody who's necessarily seen it all before, but somebody who is challenged because they maybe haven't seen exactly that, and they know where to go to get the answer, put their spin on it, and come to us and solve our problem. And it's for that reason that I like Corbett being experienced, but younger.
And also with, if I could add to that, because when I know that Glenn is in Lake Worth, Highland Beach, I kind of feel like that's a little too close for me.
Corbett's in Manalapan.
Right, I
I
know.
mean, how close you
Yeah,
would
right.
be?
Well, that
But
concerned
it's a
me a
Lake
little
Worth.
too.
Yeah.
One of the advantages that Glenn is going to have is that he's going to be billing us less to research a particular problem, because he already knows our code. The other firms are going to be billing us 2 or 3 more hours or more for looking up issues that they're not familiar with in the town.
Only
We'll
for a
see
year.
Right.
Only for a year.
You can only burn us once.
Right.
Well, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but what is your opinion?
Who are you looking, yeah.
Come on, you're leaving town.
You're leaving, you're
Come on,
leaving.
Ken.
If you were,
Who's
if you were in our
seeing you
position, what would your advice be?
Well, it is a tough, a tough position for me to do that. I mean, bottom line is every one of the firms can do it. My own personal involvements with these firms makes it difficult for me to make a recommendation. I mean, I'll tell you my history with Glenn. He was an assistant county attorney when I was a county commissioner. That's when we did the fire district consolidation. That's when we did the union negotiations. And while we had a labor negotiator, a labor attorney, Glenn was intimately involved. He was intimately involved in developing the Children's Services Council, which I'm a co-founder of. He and I shared office space for 6 years. In that time period, he referred, it was some of the first municipal law that I ever did, were litigation matters for Riviera Beach that were referred by Glenn, and we're personal friends. And on top of that, I mean, he's been around a long time and has built from being a sole practitioner a very, very good law firm.
And he would sit in that seat, is that what he said?
He said either he would or Brian Shutt would, whichever one you would want. And I know the lawyers that he has, and they're very, very good lawyers. The Water Management District former general counsel is kind of intriguing because of a particular issue that we're dealing with right now, where the Water Management District is playing a big, big part, and water and development is going to be a big issue. Corbin and White, ironically, Trela White was one of my successors at the Attorney General's office, and I met her when she was handling a case that I had written a brief for. And we got to know each other, and she formed her law firm. And John Corbett was an assistant county attorney when I was a county commissioner, so I developed a relationship with John. And of course, Erin, worked for me and then with me. She has strengths in the water area as well. I might have, from a personal standpoint, a personal preference. From a professional standpoint, I would tell you, and Weiss-Serota, I just know. I know that decision comes down to whether you do want a very large firm or you'd rather have a medium-sized firm. If it comes down to the medium-sized firm, ultimately it's who you're going to feel most comfortable with, not from a legal ability standpoint, because they have equal abilities. Glenn's firm may be a little stronger in one area, Corbin and White in another area. Corbin and White, they have their issue with regard to collective bargaining. The way we dealt with it here, I sat in on the first session, and after that I got Glenn Thomas, my partner in Tallahassee, to handle it all, because he didn't have the day-to-day relationship with you. It sounded to me like that's what the approach towards Civio would probably take. But on the other hand, Corbett and White have their relationship with the League of Cities, their knowledge on a day-to-day basis of what's going on in Tallahassee.
Is there any reason you couldn't continue to use your former Tallahassee colleague for those, under separate contract for those issues?
As long as you waive the conflict, if you will, with regard to the lobbying activities up there. No.
What would it possibly have to do with it?
No, you can certainly continue to use Glenn,
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, so it really comes down to, at this point, the relationship issue and who you feel you would be most comfortable with sitting here. My view would be between Torsivia and Corbin and White.
Right, which I think we're getting,
Which is-
to feel like.
With the Manalapan issue, that comes up only in the context of if you have an issue with them down the road. Chances are, if it's Corbin and White, you'd have to have sort of the same understanding as when I became CRA attorney in Boynton, that if there ever was a conflict between the adjoining entities, the attorney would have to recuse himself or herself from both entities. So, they would have to get an attorney and you would have to get an
I would
attorney.
suspect
In
that
my 17 years here, it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I would suspect that Manalapan would have more of a concern about us than we have about Manalapan, if
Right.
anything. If we get involved with them on anything, it might be LPR, which
Yeah.
I don't see it as any way that you can get into a conflict. You either do it, you don't do it, you opt in, you opt out.
Well, and the other side of it is when we did the litigation for A1A, the DOT, when DOT was sued, or the administrative proceedings against their decision not to put bike lanes in. We led the legal team on that, and we represented the 5 municipalities going up the road, so I represented Manalapan as well. None of those issues are insurmountable once you've made the determination who you would feel most comfortable with. And as I suggested, pick one and then pick the second as the backup if you can't negotiate a fee arrangement that is to your satisfaction.
Who do you favor, Jeff?
Okay.
I just, I like the Corbett White, but Corbett White really is, it really shouldn't say Corbett White, because, let's
They're
face
not
it.
there.
They're
out.
retired, yeah.
Well, that's a lot of law.
It should be Davis and Ashton.
Well, but they, there's a reason they have Corbett White on top.
Well, obviously, you make a phone call, hey, this is what happened, this-
Yeah.
and who's we need to call.
Right.
It's just, I like the youth of the Davis and Ashton. You know, I'm concerned,
What?
youth
Yeah.
Yeah.
with the Corbett and Ashton. I'm concerned with Glenn and his partners, because when is he gonna retire? So do we make a decision and 2 years later this guy retires? I don't know, but if I was making
He
a
is much
decision.
younger than me.
Oh, not
He's a
much.
But
couple
if
years
I,
younger
if
than
I was
me, I
making
think,
a
yeah.
decision for the next 3 years, or short-term 5 years, then I would probably go with the most experienced firm
Right.
in this arena, and that would definitely have to be Glenn's Torcivia. That's why I'm looking at it. Do I need to teach this other firm, different, in fact, that's what I said, I don't wanna have to bring in an attorney that I have to
And if
teach.
you were looking to continue our record of really long-standing relationships, who would you go with?
At Davis and Ashton.
My-
See, I
my
mean, that's
suggestion-
why
Right, Corbett, yeah.
because I don't
Right.
know, I mean, I'm looking at a young firm who's hungry, and I'm looking at an older firm who's just so heavily experienced. But which do we need in the next 5 years?
But one of the things.
With
too-
Could have both.
Right. we
Oh,
We
could-
already
yeah, I
have
mean,
one on,
But I mean, we have had
We already
Erin
have
in
one.
here for a while, and I think she's pretty knowledgeable about the work we've done. I mean, she's not a newcomer, right? And then this guy, Davis, who came in, who's the managing director, I mean, he brings a lot of experience also,
Well, our
so.
own town attorney states,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
you know, what level of experience do they need to have? He states it's apples to apples
Right.
on experience, some with a strength here, some with a strength here.
Right.
Well, the only thing that I actually don't like about Davis and Ashton is that they have 6 municipalities. I don't want to be grouped in with Royal Palm Beach and all the other municipalities, so
But so
that
does Torrizio have six.
amalgam them.
Torcivia
Right,
has-
Belglade, Palm Beach, Delray,
Yeah.
Lake Worth,
Yep.
Island Beach. Right,
Yeah.
so
One
they
thing-
all have.
They're municipal attorneys, that's
Right,
what they
that's what
do.
they That's what they do.
What would we expect them to have?
One
You
thing
don't
you
have
might
a
want to
choice.
consider is that if we go with Torcivia, he can't be the special,
Yeah, it can't be the special magistrate.
special
anymore.
magistrate, and perhaps bring in the younger firm to come in, ask them if they're interested in.
You throw them a bone?
No, well, no, but the point is, if, not throw them a bone, but we're gonna need someone to be a special magistrate, and they learn our town code, and it'd be a much easier transition for that firm to work its way back up.
Learning our town code, I'm sure, is not gonna be very different.
But I mean,
for anybody.
but you're missing the point, the town code, the people, they get the relationships, they get to know people here, all that thing being,
I just like Corbin White better.
But
That's
Glenn-
who I wanna see sitting here. Glenn has a lot of stuff going for him, but I don't
And
see
he
him
could
sitting here.
recommend somebody for special master.
Right, yeah.
Special master is not our problem.
No,
Not at all.
no, that's what I'm saying. too.
Special master is an easy deal.
Right, easy.
Well, who do you prefer, Jim?
I prefer the Torcivia firm. It
I do
gives
too.
us the
right, well,
good
they found
blend
it
of
then.
everything, the experience, the contacts, the forward-looking, they know our code, it's gonna be a very easy transition. Sure, if we authorize the town manager to negotiate with them on the points that caused concern about their billing rates, that, you know, it's something that can be done. And that's why, I mean, I like the Torcivia firm.
Who would you rate it as second?
I think it's a toss-up between number one, which was number one, and.
Weiss.
And the last one. Corbett White and Weiss Serota. I mean, they both kind of have the same qualities, except Weiss Serota's a little bit bigger.
A little bit.
Little bit.
Yeah.
60 to 4.
But I mean, they, you know, they bring the same, you know, level of expertise. They bring the same enthusiasm.
That's good.
And, you know, Weiss and Serota is bigger, which would give us that kind of a background, as you, like you said, it's got some pluses and minuses, but.
Who's your second?
I'd still, I'm with Lynn, I would go with, it's gonna be up to you. I'd go with Corbett White, Davis and Ashton, because of their record, because of their record of not having lost municipalities, lost their business, because I think that's a firm that the same players that are sitting here today might be the players that could be sitting here 10 to 15 years from now, just as we had last time around.
Who would be your second choice?
My second choice would definitely be Torsivia.
Yeah, me too. I'm with Rich on this.
I think the first one is just too large. It's a gaggle of attorneys.
Great guy, I like the guy. He
Yeah.
learned
It's
softball,
just
he
not-
can do anything.
This is not personal by any
No,
means.
no, no, no. Yeah, that was 3, and then 4 would be.
Well, it looks like then Dorsivia, is that how you pronounce it?
Mhm.
Would be the first choice of
No, it doesn't.
more.
No, it looks like it's your first choice, not ours. It sounds
No,
like
but
it's up to the mayor.
no, but Jeff, Jim, me.
I didn't hear Jeff say.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
just still, it's just,
Well,
yeah, it's
you
it's a hard
did.
decision. I just,
Who do you want sitting here? Do you want Glenn sitting here, or you want that blonde, tall woman?
I have a blonde short woman and
I know,
I have a blonde
I
tall
know.
woman.
It's tall is different, there you go.
I just feel that how, if I want to get somebody that's very much like what we have, that would be Glenn Torsivia, who would be sitting there. And that's, like you said, if he's going to see something coming that we may, hey, you guys need to do this, will that younger firm see that coming? I would say no. I would say that would be the guy that would watch our back.
I don't find him to be as jaded as Glenn seems to be. And by jaded, I mean seen it, done it, seen it all, done it all. I've never found Ken I find Ken to be closer to the attitude that we got out of Corbett.
Yeah, I do.
Well, Glenn talks a little more than.
Well, and that's, and by the way, that is.
But-
that was
but
the
I-
other
I
thing
write
picked
long
up on.
memos.
I watched that presentation on an hourly he's on an hourly basis now. I have an attorney in Murphy, North Carolina, Southern boy, that when he talks, Rich, well, that is a cadence of his talk, that it'll take me 20 minutes to get 5 minutes worth of information.
And we've got
Okay.
talkers here, huh?
Yep, and myself and yourself and him included. But the point is that, and now it's not necessarily, it's certainly not by design, but he is not the most efficient communicator. You ask him what he's going to charge for paralegals, and he tells you what kind of education paralegals need.
Talking about Glenn?
Yeah.
I got $100 per hour for paralegal.
Well,
No.
that's not the answer he gave.
Communication skills.
That's what I.
No, you got it right, but he went on and on. in the
Right,
explanation.
his likely to speak.
Over 25 cents a copy, 54 cents a mile.
That also really left a bad taste in my mouth. I know we can negotiate it, but
Yeah.
why do you bring it up in the first place?
I-
25
I
cents a
don't like
copy.
the
Who's
nickel
charged
diming. I hate
25
the
cents a
nickel
copy
diming.
since 1980?
I only charge 15 cents a copy.
Oh, well, I'm copying at your place. Jeff, it's up to you.
It's not, I really think that for the next 5 years, I think the Torsivia folks would be the way to go, but I think we need to negotiate or give them an offer that's very close to the offer from Corbett and White.
Well, the offer is real simple, whoever you go with. In the vein of your comments, the offer is $190 an hour, $225 for special matters, and don't talk to us about anything else except hard costs.
That's
Thank
it.
you.
Let me.
That's very simple.
I move that we authorize the town, our town manager, to negotiate a attorney fee contract with the Torchivia firm for an hourly rate not to exceed $190 an hour for all attorneys, general matters for the town, for litigation issues not to exceed $225 per hour, and special issues and litigation matters, and
Out-of-pocket costs.
out-of-pocket, how do we handle out-of-pocket costs?
Well, I mean,
They would be charged.
Hard costs.
Hard costs.
Hard costs be passed through to the town, soft costs they are going to include in their hourly rate. And I don't like the 3% per
I
year
don't like
increase.
No, that,
And no automatic increase to be renegotiated on a yearly basis. How's that?
Should it be a contract of a certain length of time?
That's a year.
Yeah.
A year.
Year-to-year contract.
Yeah,
Negotiated-
ours always has been on a year-to-year
One year,
basis.
year.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Anything else?
And you have a second that you're gonna do?
Um,
Corbett White for the second, or?
Well, we'll do
Why
that
don't
one,
we
then I'll
do
just
that,
move on.
and then,
Yeah,
well, we
let's-
should have a
we'll do
second.
that
You want to do
motion.
this, we'll do this motion first, and then we'll do a second motion that in the event the Torsivia firm, we
Yeah.
can't come to an agreement with the Torsivia firm, make the same offer to the Corbett firm?
Yes.
Okay.
You can do it in one motion.
Do it in one motion? All right, so
You
that.
just did.
I just did. I amended my
So
motion.
moved, right?
I'll second.
The motion is second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. Motion carries.
Who seconded?
I did.
Gail?
Yeah.
Okay, you got it. We did our work.
It's an uncomfortable position to be in one way or another. Somebody was gonna, either way, there was gonna be opposition to a
That's
future
okay.
staff member. And that's unfortunate, but we did the right thing.
We did.
Oh, yeah.
We all did, we each did the right thing.
That's your.
All right, well, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
So
Time to go
sorry,
back to
I like
work.
those two women.
Yeah, but you don't know they're gonna accept the offer.
Send this back to you.
Huh?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You were nice and quiet.
I don't.